lasting peace and security in the Middle East. And a strike like this, and potentially others, can disrupt the regime, can destabilize it. Look at the choice that the top military officials and key ayatollahs now have to face after the U.S. attack. Now they have to make a choice. Do they want to take on a second military adversary in the form of the United States? They may well do it, but they would be making a big mistake from the point of view of regime survival.
Don't miss Balance of Power live every weekday.
Bloomberg loves earnings.
I know it's like your Super Bowl, right?
I can't wait. It's like opening presents in the morning.
All right, it will be exciting.
Nobody covers earnings like Bloomberg.
In case you missed it, on the Pulse.
I think the idea of wait and see and pause is really yesterday's news. Our best advice to CEOs right now is that if you're not operating differently than you were a year ago, you may be falling behind. Yes, we need to build resilience, but we need to also build growth despite the environment, and that requires a different strategy than just a year ago.
Don't miss the Pulse, live every weekday.
U.S. jobs numbers are released. Bloomberg has the report under surveillance with crucial data and expert analysis at terminal speed. Nobody covers Jobs Day like Bloomberg.
Welcome to the Qatar Economic Forum powered by Bloomberg. I'm Jumana Bersachi. Over the next half hour, we will be showing you highlights from the 5th Annual Forum in Doha. This year's event was held under the theme The Road to 2030, Transforming the Global Economy. Once known primarily as energy suppliers, Gulf nations are rapidly emerging as key centers of financial power, highlighting a profound shift in global capital flows. Sovereign wealth funds such as the Qatar Investment Authority and Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund now act as global financiers, while pro-business reforms have turned the region into a magnet for foreign direct investment. And strategic decisions made in the Gulf increasingly shape global markets. I spoke with Qatari Prime Minister His Excellency Sheikh Hamad bin Abdurrahman Al Thani at the opening of this year's forum.
President Trump was in the region last week. It was the first time a U.S. president has paid a visit to Qatar since 2003. How significant was this visit for the Gulf, do you think? And also, how do you think this president, his approach to the region, differs from his predecessors?
Well, I believe that the president visit first trip to the GCC region, visiting Saudi, Qatar, and UAE, has been a great demonstration for the potential of that region. And this sent a very strong message to the entire world that there is a very high potential in that region. This region is flourishing. This region has a lot to do when it comes to contribute to the future technology and the revolution of artificial intelligence and the need for power. Basically, we have had a great visit, and I believe this is equivalent to the rest of the countries in the GCC. During that visit, we had a wide range of topics that's been discussed, whether it's on the regional security, on the future economic cooperation between the two countries, and how to untap the potential between the two countries. These topics actually has varied, whether it's how to partner in artificial intelligence, how to partner in energy, and how to expand also in being a critical and a vital part of the supply chain for the United States economy, which is the leading economy in the world. Yeah. I believe this was very much perceived in a positive way by the region. And of course, we know that the policy varies from one administration to another. We are glad to see that Middle East and GCC in particular is a priority for this administration, and we believe that there is a lot of potential for both of us in the region and the United States that we can untap in the next a few years. And also, I think that one of the key elements of the president's visit is making sure that the situation in this region remain stabilized.
I think it was very important, but it's the beginning of the story, not the end of the story. Syria, for the first time, came to the Arab Summit in Saudi Arabia first, and now attending a summit with Trump. At the same time, they were asked to do a number of things, but the incentive was put up front. In other words, we will reduce or remove sanctions, and we will provide assistance. That being said, all of those who met the Syrians, be them the Arabs or the Americans, although I'm speaking more on the Arab side, want a better Syria. They don't want an extremist Syria. They don't want, frankly, a revisionist Syria either. So the incentive's out there, but there has to be something to be delivered in response.
The PKK has waged almost a 50-year war against Turkey. But last week, they have agreed to disband and disarm. This is also huge because, according to a study, including the opportunity cost, we have wasted almost $1.8 trillion over the past 5 decades combating terror. Now, of course, the peace dividend would be huge in terms of channeling resources to more productive areas for development, for progress. So in that sense, these two developments are going to be huge in terms of geopolitics no longer being a drag, but actually, being a source of leverage.
Do you think there is a chance of Iran also being brought back into the fold?
That's probably a bit over-optimistic, but there's a chance that there could be a nuclear deal that doesn't have some of the shortcomings of the previous nuclear deal that could enable the lifting of sanctions progressively and so forth as confidence is built, and that could lead to them being a more constructive player in the region than they certainly have been for many decades. Noting all the damage that has been done by their proxies in this region and still being done by the Houthis, who have still not resolved the issues there. So I think it's an opportunity that all are working as hard as they can to achieve. You can see the narrowing of the differences between the U.S. position and the Iranian position. No enrichment whatsoever is the U.S. opening. Maybe that ends up being for 3 years, and then you have an opportunity to do something smaller. Again, but you can actually see this deal starting to come together.
You think about the market in the LNG side, it's probably growing 1% to 2% compound annual growth. So it's a market that's growing from about 400 or so million tons today to something probably north of 700 million tons over the course of the next decade and beyond. So it's going to take a lot of growth. It's going to take growth in Qatar. It's going to take growth in the United States, the two biggest suppliers in the world, to satisfy the enormous amount of energy growth that's coming. It's going to be power, as His Excellency has talked about, around the whole world, not only in the United States, but around the world as well.
If the U.S. exports more LNG, where does it leave Qatar?
No, I think, we are the biggest supply that's going to come from the U.S. next year. We're going to start our LNG export by the end of this year and really start the full production sometime in the next year. But the first LNG that will come from our Golden Pass LNG, which is the largest single export project in one go that's built in the U.S., is going to have 18 million tons of production. We own 70% of that. So we will be exporters from the U.S. I think the U.S. volumes are going to go to certain markets that are mostly Europe, South America, and our volume will predominantly be serving Asia. That is difficult for the U.S. I think to reach, or the entire volume to go to Asia. But in general, I think we need all that volume. It's us, it's the U.S., I think some Australian volume and others to care. You're going to have 1.5 to 2 billion people on this earth in the next 20 to 30 years. And you have 1 billion people around the world that don't have basic electricity. So the need for electricity and power is huge. So we're not worried at all about having a supply glut or anything like that.
Coming up, more from Doha, including Tesla CEO Elon Musk. This is Bloomberg.
Technology is embedded in every aspect of our lives.
And laying the foundation for the future.
From finance to defense, AI to entertainment.
And from the road to the stars.
Bloomberg brings you the latest stories of the people and companies pushing the tech sector to new frontiers.
And the politics that shape global tech markets.
I'm Caroline Hyde in New York.
And I'm Ed Ludlow in San Francisco.
Watch Bloomberg Tech every weekday.
Only on Bloomberg Television.
Why do the biggest names in business choose Bloomberg Television?
That's a great question.
It's a very good question.
Interesting question. Good question.
Great question.
I so appreciate that question. You certainly ask interesting questions.
Bloomberg Television. Top experts, great questions.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute economic news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Francine Lacroix, the ECB Forum in Central Portugal, and this is Bloomberg.
Welcome back to the Qatar Economic Forum powered by Bloomberg. Tesla CEO Elon Musk made waves during his appearance on day one of the forum, speaking to Bloomberg's Michelle Hussein. Take a listen.
Tell me then how committed you are to Tesla. Do you see yourself, and are you committed to still being the chief executive of Tesla in 5 years' time?
Yes.
No doubt about that at all.
Well, no, I might die.
Okay, short of that.
I can't be CEO if I'm dead, so there's a slight amount of
Does that mean that the value of your pay doesn't have any bearing on your decision?
Well, that's not really a subject for discussion in this forum. I think obviously there should be compensation for, if something incredible is done, that compensation should match that something incredible was done. But I'm confident that whatever some activist posing as a judge in Delaware happens to do will not affect the future compensation.
This is the judge who twice struck down the $56 billion pay package that was awarded to you. I think the value on the current value of stock options. Yeah.
Not a judge. The activist who is cosplaying a judge in a Halloween costume.
Okay, that's your characterization. I think yes. On the current value of stock options, I think the actual
justice according to the law.
On the current value of stock options, I think the value of that pay package stands at about $100 billion. Are you saying you are relaxed about the value of your future pay package? Your decision to be committed to Tesla for the next 5 years, as long as you are still with us on this planet, is completely independent of pay?
No.
It's not independent. So pay is a relevant factor then to your commitment to Tesla?
It's sufficient voting control such that I cannot be ousted by activist investors is what matters to me. And I've said this publicly many times. But let's not have this whole thing be a discussion of my alleged pay. It's not a money thing. It's a reasonable control thing over the future of the company, especially if we're building millions, potentially billions of humanoid robots. I can't be sitting there and wanting to get tossed out by, for political reasons, by activists. That would be unacceptable. That's all that matters.
One question before we move on to other companies, which is that I wonder if some of what has happened to Tesla in the last few months, did you take it personally?
Yes.
And did it make you regret any of, or think twice about your political endeavors? Because I
did what needed to be done. The violent antibody reaction, and I'm not someone who's ever committed violence, and yet massive violence was committed against my companies. Massive violence was threatened against me. Who are these people? Why would they do that? How wrong can they be? They're on the wrong side of history, and that's an evil thing to do. To go and damage some poor innocent person's car, to threaten to kill me. What's wrong with these people? I've not harmed anyone. So something needs to be done about them, and a number of them are going to prison, and they deserve it. And more will.
You're referring to the attacks on Tesla showrooms, but I think...
Yeah. Firing bullets into showrooms and burning down cars is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Those people will go to prison, and the people that funded them and organized them will also go to prison. Don't worry.
But wouldn't you...
We're coming for you.
Wouldn't you... But wouldn't you acknowledge that some of the people who turned against Tesla in Europe were upset at your politics, and very few of them would have been violent in any way. They just objected to what they saw you say or do politically.
Well, it's certainly fine to object to political things, but it's not fine to resort to violence and hanging someone in effigy and death threats. That's obviously not okay.
Let's then talk about your new world, your role advising government. You are in this unique and unprecedented position of having billions of dollars worth of contracts with the federal government yourself, mostly through SpaceX, and also now an insider's knowledge of it because of Doge. Can you see that there is a conflict of interest or a potential conflict of interest in broad terms just through that very fact?
I don't think so, actually. There have been many advisors throughout history and in the U.S. government and others who have had economic interests, and I am simply an advisor. I don't have formal power, and that's it. The president can choose to accept my advice or not, and that's how it goes.
Critics will say that the U.S. government probably shouldn't be doing deals with entities or government-aligned entities that are also doing business potentially with the Trump organization. What do you
Well, we're not, the Trump organization isn't doing business with any government entities. They're doing it with private investors. I mean, many of the people in this room probably know them or have talked about them with that. And so, there is a very clear distinction between those things. In the first term, we actually said we're not going to do any foreign deals, even though that's what we did. Yeah. We had done it for years. We just said, hey, we're going to do this. And the reality is it didn't stop the media from constantly saying, you're profiteering anyway. We stopped entirely. Even the deals that were totally legit, it didn't stop the insanity. So this time around, we said, hey, we're going to play by the rules, but we're not going to go so far as to stymie our business forever, lock ourselves in a proverbial padded room, because it almost doesn't matter. They're going to hate you no matter what.
How are you thinking about the U.S. as an investment?
Well, I mean, the words U.S. exceptionalism are on everybody's lips these days. And, the U.S. has really been preeminent in the world for the last 80 to 100 years based on dynamic economy, respect for the free market system, respect for the rule of law, capital markets, spirit of innovation, many things. Those things haven't gone away. I think that the U.S. is still the destination of choice, and it is the majority of the world economy. It's hard to imagine that it shouldn't be the majority of anyone's investments. Exactly how you turn that into a number, that's where the judgment comes in, and it can't be the subject of an algorithm. The world is going to have to decide whether what I said while we were warming up is that the U.S. is the best place in the world to invest. The question is it still as best as it was? And that's a judgment. Are we as dependable as we always have been?
I think there are kind of 5 factors that have made the U.S. a really exceptional place post-World War II. The first is that we had very strong alliances. The second is very quickly an act from 1950 called the National Science Foundation Act, which, making it short, was just connecting research dollars from universities into the private sector that has given rise to a lot of the technologies that Rajiv just talked about. Third would be the exorbitant privilege of being the world's reserve currency. Fourth would be rule of law and constitution. And fifth would be demographics, that as a country, we in theory can tap into 7 billion people, whereas China, the world's second largest economy, has a smaller pool to come from. That's historically been true. I think we could argue we're taking all of those out for a little bit of a test drive right now. But ultimately, I think while some of those formidable advantages are bendable, they're probably not breakable. However, I think both things can be true. I think the U.S. can remain exceptional, and I think it's still possible that investors are going to look to allocate marginal dollars elsewhere.
Coming up, more from the Qatar Economic Forum as we discuss how the Gulf is positioning itself to take advantage of the AI revolution. This is Bloomberg.
In case you missed it, on Bloomberg Crypto.
How do you expect the asset to continue price increase at these levels that we've seen? And at what point do we see, winter coming again?
Winter's not coming back. We're past that phase. If Bitcoin's not going to zero, it's going to $1 million. And you have all the evidence you need to determine that, right? The President of the United States has determined he supports Bitcoin. The Cabinet supports Bitcoin. Scott Bessent supports Bitcoin. Paul Atkins has shown himself to be an enthusiastic believer of Bitcoin and digital assets. Kentez at CFTC feels the same way. The banks are going to custody Bitcoin. Bitcoin has gotten through its riskiest period. The accounting has been corrected. There's now only 450 Bitcoin a day available for sale by natural sellers.
Don't miss Bloomberg Crypto live Tuesdays.
From the world of politics to the world of business, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines deliver news, insight, and analysis live 2 times a day, every trading day. Balance of Power at 1 and 5 Eastern, only on Bloomberg. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We'll show you what's happening in ETFs like no one else. ETF IQ, Mondays on Bloomberg.
Welcome back to Doha and the Qatar Economic Forum powered by Bloomberg. I'm Jumana Bersachi. Artificial intelligence has been a consistent theme throughout the discussions on the transformation of global markets. This as the Gulf looks to take center stage as a major data center hub to reap the benefit of the AI revolution.
We're sleepwalking into the disruption. So,
we're sleepwalking into disruption.
Correct. Because, and the generative AI right now are the large ALM models, the OpenAI and others, and that's just the foundation stone, but it is moving fast. If you look at last week's news, Microsoft laid off thousands of software programmers across the globe, India, US, in Seattle. And you would think, if you went back last 5 years, and I am a member of the board of the UPenn advisory board, of the 400 undergrads who came in to study engineering at Penn, 80, 100, 120 would do computer science. Nobody wanted to do mechanical engineering and so on. So, but that's not the issue. Every white-collar job which is process-driven, what generative AI is good at is it has become good at answering questions. It's not good at it. You still need Katie to ask the right question.
By the way, it's what I say to my kids when they go to school every morning. Ask good questions.
Yeah.
Humans still have to do that. I agree with that.
But to give an answer, they have processed every book in the world, every data in the world. So they are 1 million times more information than a human being can ever hold. So they can answer the question. So it now takes weeks to process a mortgage application, an insurance claim, medical claims, even in asset management will get disrupted.
Do you double down as well, as Jeff was alluding to, on data centers and AI really?
Yeah, I think, I don't believe that the trend on digitization or digitalization will change. And with AI, with DeepSeek, I think the demand for data is just going to continue to grow. The big challenge, at least in Asia, outside of the US, the big challenge is around whether there's going to have enough energy to be able to support the growth. It's not difficult to buy land to build data centers. The question is water, infrastructure, and power. And if you can get that going, and then the next big question is the capital. I mean, Jeff mentioned just now to build a 1 gigawatt of data center, it's going to cost $10 billion.
We're investing extensively, a lot in the US, extensively. So we started investing in data centers and some of them in AI, in the AI in hyperscale space about 10 years ago. So when we started originally, we were hesitant really about the asset class. When we developed familiarity after a couple of years, we did deploy in size. I'll tell you, we're very happy with what we've done early because those things are very valuable now. Because when you do things early, you have the ability to negotiate better terms. So we've have access to a lot of assets in the US. Overall, we've invested and have exposure to about 5 gigawatts as a QA. And we've done it systematically with discipline. When it comes to AI, which is the applications on top, we've also been active, both in the hardware, both in the infrastructure software. So we've invested this year a significant ticket, $500 million in Databricks. And also, we've been active on the application side.
When you think about the power of what AI can do for all companies to reduce costs, potentially to offset whatever tariffs are going to creep into cost increase. I don't know exactly how that offset will work and whether one will come before the other, and that will be a question of whether the consumer can bear it. But if you think about the ability to drive those costs down through efficiencies in these companies, that's why these multiples have stayed so strong across the board. And then you think to yourself, well, which multiples are higher than the others? And you look at just the dichotomy as an example between the US and Europe, and you say to yourself, well, if AI is sort of the equalizer and it can help all companies everywhere, irrespective of whether the AI technology was made in the US or made in Europe, you could really get a benefit from some of those companies around the world. So I think this is exciting across the board. The question is whether inflation creeps in too fast before that.
That's all from the 5th edition of the Qatar Economic Forum. The Qatari government is the underwriter of the Qatar Economic Forum, powered by Bloomberg, and complete interviews from the forum are available at Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Terminal. I'm Jumana Bersachi in Doha, and this is Bloomberg.
Let's talk about this villa. Very traditional. A lot of things of the past.
I live my very first independent life in the farmhouse. And I built it by the memory of the farmhouse, the philosophy they believe, yin, yang, 5 elements, the concept of the life, of the happiness. They build this kind of roof, like boat, and man and woman, and bowl of rice. Everyone should be happy if have somewhere to live, something to eat, and someone to love.
So you're defined a lot by your past experiences.
Yeah, actually, I'm a lucky man because not everyone should have the experience of the war and peace, poor and rich, technology progress. I changed during my life, rich by experience.
There's an appreciation for what you have now.
And therefore, peace is the most important thing for today, for Vietnamese, and I think for human beings of the world.
Welcome back to the circuit. This time, we're taking you to the frontier.
Where is
do we have a camera, or do we don't want to lose you, Emily, in all of this?
Stargate, put that name down in your books.
What we're undergoing right now is sort of the largest infrastructure bill in human history.
To meet the people rewriting the rules of code and culture.
How do you personally grapple with the pace of it all?
It does feel like it's going very fast.
When did you realize, oh my gosh, my life is never going to be the same?
The day I got engaged, I was like, whoa, what have I bitten off here?
Where the future gets real.
How confident are you that AI's promise will outweigh the perils?
I'm not confident.
So the tech companies are lying or fudging.
And a little weird.
What's the point of this?
What is the point of any of this?
Tune into Season 3 of The Circuit with me, Emily Chang, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Originals and Bloomberg TV.
Making money isn't about drowning in emotions. It's about understanding what's actually happening. Markets are the best way to glean signal from noise, and that is what we try to do every morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute financial news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Michael McKee at the Federal Reserve, and this is Bloomberg.
Asia is at the forefront of some of the world's biggest stories. I'm Sherrian in Tokyo.
And I'm Heidi Stroud-Watts here in Sydney, where the trading day begins. We're here in the center of all the action to get you set up with the numbers, news, and knowledge you need for the day ahead.
The demand is indeed recovering. We've been waiting for this moment.
The opportunity of a century.
Join us on Bloomberg The Asia Trade. Weekdays only on Bloomberg TV. Context changes everything.
Remember, before dialing, listen for dial tone.
It's not like he was proposing to bring back the rotary phone. But when John Stankey became AT&T's chief executive officer in 2020, he sensed the company had strayed a little too far from its roots.
There clearly was a need based on kind of where the investor base was and where performance was to take a step back and say it was time to maybe simplify the business and get it more focused.
America's oldest telecom had grown into a sprawling media and communications giant with the heaviest debt load of any non-financial company in the world. To turn around, it had to slim down.
And when the decision was made that we needed to focus, we started to ask ourselves, well, how do we compete? What are the things we need to do?
What he concluded very quickly is, if we want to be the very best connectivity company, we can't half-step it. We have to lean in. We have to invest a lot more.
Connectivity may not be as sexy as Hollywood, but it's been AT&T's core business since the days of Ma Bell. Stankey needed a partner to help rebuild that legacy on a foundation of new technology. He asked Pascal Desroches to be his CFO.
I said yes right away, but I recognized the enormity of the challenge ahead of us.
When you got here and you looked under the hood, were you surprised by the enormity of it? Were you sort of overwhelmed, or did you feel like, all right, I got this right away?
I did not think I had this all the way. You come in, you have a sense for what the issues are, but until you're actually in the seat and really learning firsthand the depth of the problem and the complexity of the problems, it's hard to fully appreciate.
He dug into them piece by piece and day by day.
One of the things that I think I do very well, I'm pretty good at not making problems bigger than they are. I'm a believer you try to make progress on big problems every day, and ultimately you'll look back and say, hey, you've come a long way.
AT&T has come a long way since Stankey and Desroches teamed up. It's gone from a lumbering, over-leveraged company to a darling of the AI revolution.
That first 18 months was trying to right-size the balance sheet and also making sure we were, at the same time, investing significantly in the businesses to get growth going again. A lot more of my time now is spent on working hand in hand with the operators and making sure I'm giving them resources that they need to execute on the strategic priorities.
Everything in our business is a team sport. It's an operating business. And I saw in Pascal somebody who'd be a really collaborative CFO, somebody who's going to work well with the team and make everybody kind of elevate.
Pascal Desroches brings much more than a head for numbers to the CFO role.
By always looking externally, it allows you to make sure that we are at our very best.
Call it a flair for connectivity.
I've been really blessed. I have such a great team.
He is incredibly patient and has a gift to be able to repeat and tell people things multiple times so that they can build their understanding.
We have honest discussions about what's going well, what's not going well, and we're really transparent about what we're trying to do. Early on, there were skeptics, but over time we were consistent in communicating, this is our North Star, this is what we're trying to do, this is why we think we are on the right track. Over time, we've built an enormous amount of trust, and right now we're seeing a lot of the benefits of it.
Over the last 5 years, AT&T has grown leaner by design, selling Warner Media and DirecTV, and using the proceeds to strengthen its 5G wireless and fiber broadband capacity. No company has invested more capital into U.S. connectivity infrastructure in this decade. Now it's poised to satisfy soaring demand for higher bandwidth and faster speeds.
We have our broadband or fiber product. We have our fixed wireless product, which is basically internet using our wireless network. And then you have your traditional wireless.
Why fiber?
It has the fastest speed. It has the lowest cost to maintain relative to your traditional copper, which is what we're upgrading.
Beauty of fiber, it's symmetrical. It sends the same amount of data up as it sends down. And so it was betting on that kind of capable infrastructure was going to be necessary for the AI economy.
I think fiber future-proofs your network. It took about 20 years for the United States to see about half of its households built out with fiber. We're going to see that 50% go to 80% in about 5 years. We don't see any other technology that will set your network up better for long-term bandwidth consumption.
Fiber provides the lowest unit economic cost, and 5G provides the lowest economic cost for wireless. We are the only company that has scaled networks in both fiber and wireless. We think this is going to be a natural cost advantage, allowing us to drive not only the best economics for ourselves, but also drive the best value for consumers.
AT&T has a decisive edge in fiber subscribers over competitors Verizon and T-Mobile. It trails its rivals in wireless subscribers.
Right now with fiber, AT&T is a clear leader. When it comes to wireless, AT&T is not number one. Does that matter?
Well, look, I don't like being number 3 in anything. So let's start with that. I look at shared service revenue, and we've been making really good progress the last few years under John's leadership in growing our shared service revenue.
What we're geared toward is to get the highest share of wallet in the industry. And maybe some of it comes from fixed and maybe some of it from wireless. And we may not be the #1 handset purveyor or the #1 broadband purveyor. But the question is our total spend in the industry at the highest level? And that's really the strategy we're pursuing right now.
The bet on fiber is expected to pay off in double-digit growth on the consumer side. At the same time, Desroches is working to take AT&T's legacy copper network offline and get its cost off the books.
Right now we are running both a copper network and a fiber network. Our copper is declining, but there is a certain element of fixed costs associated with it, about $6 billion of total expenses. That will, over time, decline to zero. But it's going to take some time. Our goal is by the end of the decade, by the end of 2029, to be out of the copper business.
Copper is sort of an interesting substance because it's also a commodity. Are you selling it? Are you going into the commodity trade?
Believe it or not, we are decommissioning parts of our network, our copper network, we are selling it, and it's been, with the prices today, it's pretty attractive. We have a lot of copper still in the ground, and at these prices, we will make a return on those.
Every little bit helps for a CFO who plans to spend about $22 billion on CapEx in each of the next 3 years. While some companies pump the brakes on investment in an uncertain economy, that's not really an option for AT&T.
Let me break down our CapEx into the buckets that we spend. A big part of it is to expand our reach of fiber. And you cannot wait until there is certainty to build that. These have long lead times that require you to have conviction about where demand is going. Another bucket is, as more people are on our network, we also have to add more coverage and capacity. It's almost like a variable expense. Third, we are modernizing our wireless network right now. Through the investments we're making, we are driving down our unit costs over time and providing more capacity to serve the demand that we think is coming.
Do you have less confidence in that 3-year plan now than when you first came out with it, given that some people are having trouble deciding how things are going to look in the next 3 days?
No, I really don't. I look at the nature of our business. It doesn't matter the economic cycle. It is a critical goods or service, and we have every confidence demand for it will remain. Will it be harder in a more challenged economic environment if that ends up being the case? Of course, but remember, we are investing at record levels. Slight moderations of that would allow us to deliver a lot more incremental cash to the bottom line. So I have every confidence we're going to be able to deliver our guidance.
That guidance includes returning $40 billion to shareholders through dividends and buybacks.
The last several years, we've invested significantly and haven't raised the dividend, so we thought an important next step was to deliver even more value through a stock buyback.
Why is now the time to do buybacks?
I think our stock is so incredibly attractively priced, and so by buying back more, we're giving more value to those who remain, and we are confident in our ability to continue to increase the price of our stock.
AT&T has the cash to reward shareholders, largely thanks to DesRoches' management of its balance sheet. The company has steadily pared down its debt. Now it can focus on investing for growth and even lever back up for M&A.
Is the threshold higher to buy something that looks attractive at this point, given that financing costs are so much higher? Should you tap the debt markets again?
Financing costs are higher than they were the last 5 years, but I've been around business long enough to know that financing costs can be a lot higher than this. I'll give you an example. At the end of March, we went out to the market, issued 10-year notes. The effective cost of that was about 5.2% pre-tax. For a business our size and scale, when you add the tax benefits, it's still a very low cost of capital.
As the competition for connectivity intensifies, so has the appetite for deals among the industry's major players.
There are 3 national wireless carriers in the U.S., and that's really been created through consolidation that's taken place over many years. As a wireless company, by definition, you compete in the whole country. In the fiber business, it's a regional, semi-national business, and so the more you can scale up your fiber business, the better you can compete with fixed wireless, obviously the incumbents in cable, and so that's been, I think, the motivating factor around a lot of this M&A activity.
In May 2025, AT&T joined the fray when it agreed to buy Lumen Technologies' consumer fiber business.
We're picking up about 4.5 million active homes that have been passed and connected in a footprint that can probably grow to close to 10 million homes that are attractive to invest in. We'll go from 50 million U.S. households passed with fiber by 2030 to 60 million U.S. households passed with fiber by 2030, and probably tops out around 70 million after 2030.
Pascal DesRoches says that when future opportunities arise, he'll be ready and able to pursue them.
Some of those opportunities may be invest more in our business because we know that we're very familiar with the returns, but it's really having that flexibility that's so critically important, because now we can take advantage of opportunities without having to worry about our balance sheet.
Coming up, Pascal DesRoches takes me to the room where connectivity happens.
Think about it as the brains of the network.
A visit to the central office next. This is Bloomberg. AT&T's CFO, Pascal Desroches, doesn't shy away from a challenge. He's been meeting them all his life, starting as a young child when his family emigrated to the U.S. from Haiti.
I remember going to school and not knowing the language and having to work really hard to get the language and the lessons, and seeing my parents work really hard. Honestly, it drives me to this day, their sacrifices that they made to position us to come to this country.
Desroches started his career in accounting, rising to partner at KPMG. He also spent 2 years in government as a professional accounting fellow at the SEC. Shifting to the corporate world, he spent 15 years in finance roles at Time Warner, before landing his first CFO position at Turner Broadcasting. After a stint as CFO of Warner Media Group, he moved into his current job at AT&T.
I want to be as knowledgeable as possible. I'm constantly pushing myself to be uncomfortable.
What would you say you've taken from each of the experiences, from government, from accounting, from big corporations?
What you learn is this: it's always hard when you start. You've got to be patient with yourself. You learn resilience. If you go through a lot of different environments, a lot of different challenges, you build resilience. And that is probably the one thing I will say that has really helped me in my latest assignment is the resilience that I've built up over the years.
His resilience and zest for learning makes Pascal Desroches the ideal CFO for AT&T as it plots its future around 5G wireless and fiber. It's hard to understand the scale of this journey until you see it up close and in person at one of the connectivity hubs known as central offices.
Traffic is aggregated from the different neighborhoods and then onto what we call our core. Think about it as the brains of the network. It gives routing instructions in terms of where the traffic needs to go to based upon the command from your phone, your tablet, your computer.
We're talking next to another room that looks sort of like this, but a little dated, with all the copper infrastructure in it. That's all getting phased out, isn't it?
It is getting phased out, but there's still, I'd say, about 5% of our customers are still on copper-wired phones. Think landlines, think legacy DSL, and there are all sorts of regulatory requirements that limit our ability to get out of that technology quickly. So we're required to serve both the historical legacy copper technology as well as the fiber technology.
So when this ends up getting phased out, you have a lot of space left. What are you planning to do with it?
Once we decommission copper, what will happen is we're going to have excess space that we're going to probably be able to monetize and sell. We recently did a transaction where we sold 75 wire centers, and we kept access to our infrastructure, but there was still a lot of space in the building as well as adjacent land that we were able to sell at a really attractive price because we have scaled down our investment in copper.
Fiber doesn't just take up less space, it increases efficiency at every level.
For each one of these fiber cables, they snake back to a neighborhood. Each strand of fiber has several customers on it. It has a lot more capacity. Fiber consumes 70% less energy than copper. Similarly, the maintenance profile of fiber is so much better. We spend 35% less on maintaining fiber. So it's a win-win. It's a better product and less maintenance, less energy draw.
Right now, there are more than 4,500 central offices across the U.S. AT&T intends to cut that number down by the end of the decade, but the ones that remain will still play a critical role in the business.
It's really important that you have points of aggregation to ensure that you are touching as many endpoints across the country as possible. So yes, it's expensive to have them, but they also give you enormous reach across the country.
Coming up, how tariffs could hit the telecom sector. It's just one more thing Pascal Desroches is keeping his eye on.
Anything that can impact the consumer's ability to afford services, you always pay attention to.
This is Bloomberg.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute global news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Jumana Bersachi in Tehran, and this is Bloomberg.
As Bloomberg's global financial correspondent, I get to meet the people shaping the way money flows around the world. And I want to bring you with me.
Now we're playing.
Yep, now we're playing.
First and foremost, I am a capitalist. The capitalist system is the best system in the world. There isn't another one that works as well.
Citigroup moves $4 trillion a day.
5. Wall Street used to be a place.
I love all these new Wall Streets. Y'all Street, Wall Street South.
Now it's more of an idea.
The optimism here is infectious.
You think our New Yorkers are negative?
Yes.
Anything that trains people to understand probabilities and just think through things with a greater degree of nuance is a service to humanity.
I hope you survived the day.
I did. It was a busy day.
David Weston. Join me for the next generation of Wall Street Week, telling stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. Each week, we'll go on the road for a look at what lies behind the headlines of today and what will likely be the headlines tomorrow.
Above all else is emissions.
Done nothing but grow immensely. To me, that's an extraordinary sign.
We can be the change that we want to see.
Watch the all-new Wall Street Week. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Didn't really think I had a problem.
I would isolate, self-medicate.
Like 48.5 million Americans, they didn't choose addiction. Go to shatterproof.org/finds treatment. Watch the film No More Secrets and find out how you can get help. That's shatterproof.org/finds treatment.
Join me each week on Wall Street Week for stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
In the U.S. telecom industry. So to the extent we see the U.S. consumer come under pressure, that's something we worry about, frankly, more than tariffs.
AT&T's leaders recognize there will be no room for complacency in the competition for customers.
I'm not satisfied as to where our company is down in markets that are a bit more price sensitive. We've had a long legacy of being a high quality provider, that we invest in our business for reliability. But if we really want to achieve our goal of being the share leader for spend, we are going to have to be more effective in price-sensitive segments. They often say disruption comes from the bottom. So if you're not doing really well in some of those segments that are more price-sensitive, more value-oriented, you open yourself up for disruption at the top, and I don't want to be one of those companies where that happens.
Given how critical our service is, there's a certain threshold of reliability and quality that you need to have in order to really be in this business. We expect over the next 5 years for demand for connectivity to grow 80%. Because we are investing in the very best technologies, we can meet that demand with with our existing infrastructure and be in a position to provide the very best value. So I think both are important. You need both a high-quality network and the ability to drive a good value proposition for the consumer.
Pascal Desroches brings confidence grounded in deep experience to his job as AT&T's CFO. At a moment when the economy is full of noise, he's locked in on the signal. I asked him what he sees when he looks ahead.
What's the opportunity for AT&T in the next decade that most excites you?
Every technology innovation will be reliant upon great connectivity. And AT&T, our goal would be to be the very best connectivity company, and I think we're well on our way.
What's the challenge for AT&T in the next decade that keeps you up at night?
I think more and more we're going to have to be able to differentiate our products and services from that of our major peers. I think we have great products and services, so do they. I think we need to make step function changes to really help distance ourselves from the pack because we've been investing to make sure we are better positioned than anyone to do that. Whether it is personalization, whether it is trying to make sure that your connectivity is secure, whether it is to make sure that we are giving you the ability to have parental monitoring, all things that I think we are capable of that we think it's just going to be time, and I'm really excited about it.
What's the skill set or area of knowledge that you would advise every aspiring CFO to develop?
Psychology. I say that half tongue-in-cheek. I think when you are a key member in allocating resources to the organization, you have to have a measure of emotional intelligence that I don't think is often talked about. The ability to be empathetic, to listen, to understand where someone's coming from. It's so incredibly important to build the trust that people will come to you with problems, that you know about problems early, and you can help them solve them.
Complete this sentence.
Okay.
Don't worry. Complete this sentence. The hardest part of being a CFO is?
Managing the unexpected.
That's good. A friend calls you up and says, I've got great news. I just got promoted to CFO. After you say congratulations, what's the first piece of advice that you would give that person?
Make sure you have a good team underneath you. You are only as good as your team, so make sure you have the right level of skill sets and the people who are going to embrace the culture you're trying to build as well.
I'm Lisa Abramowitz. This is Bloomberg.
We're building another art museum called the Guggenheim. Now, Louvre's big enough. Why do you need a Guggenheim as well, right next door?
I think it's a great question. I think the beautiful thing about the UAE and Abu Dhabi is we live with over 200 nationalities. And in doing so, they have become a part of the country's and the city's fabric. And we need to celebrate that. So we need to celebrate everybody's identity, everybody's background, everybody's heritage, everybody's history. And what a beautiful way in doing so in these beautiful institutions. These museums are educational institutions and they're community institutions. So we wanted to curate really a story where you come to Saadiyat Cultural District and you, if you allow me to curate the story, you start off at the Natural History Museum. And at the Natural History Museum, you get a glimpse and you get an understanding of how we came to be, how our Earth came to be, how our universe came to be, from a scientific perspective. Once you leave the Natural History Museum, you go to our National Museum, the Sheikh Zayed National Museum. There, you understand the history of this great land. Not just the history of the country, but the people of this land that have been a part of this land for over 300,000 years. You get a glimpse of what the past and the present and the future looks like here in the UAE. From there, you maneuver yourself to the Louvre Abu Dhabi, which is a beautiful universal museum. It is universal in its thematic approach. So there, you basically see a part of you on an equal pedestal with the entire world.
Foi a mais terrível que eu passei na minha vida. Porque no final, tudo é dinheiro.
I think she's a scam up to now.
I am a winner.
I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into.
Money can really transform people's lives, but it can also hurt them.
Morning, this is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe. I'm Tom McKenzie in London. These are the stories that set your agenda.
Taking you from the U.S. market's close to the overnight session in Asia, we'll walk you through what you need to know to kickstart Europe's trading day. Live from our European headquarters, we bring you the day's top market-moving stories, unmatched expert analysis, and on-the-ground reporting from across the continent. Tune in to Daybreak Europe, only on Bloomberg Television. Context changes everything.
Bringing you the latest in tech and AI news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Tom McKenzie in Paris, and this is Bloomberg.
It's the world's second largest economy with a growing influence in global affairs. Bloomberg The China Show brings you the unmatched expertise you need to keep track of breaking news, in-depth market analysis, and the most influential newsmakers in and around China.
We need to do more to engage the market more. We're risk on. I think we caught a little sweet spot.
Massive savings right now.
It's already a different game.
Bloomberg The China Show. Weekdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
It's the most fascinating time for the global economy in years, and our conversations are front and center.
We're stress testing consequential ideas, and investors around the world are scoring them in real time, helping to translate the policies from Washington into actionable ideas for Wall Street.
It's the morning call you actually want to be a part of.
Separating the signal from the noise, with some fun along the way.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Stargate, put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure.
The data centers are actually under construction. The first of them are under construction in Texas, the Abilene location, which is our first location.
Abilene is a town on the western central plains of Texas. We kind of scratch and fight for everything good that comes our way.
I had people reaching out and they said, well, is the president going to come see you? And I said, well, he hasn't texted me yet. So.
I'm thrilled we get to do this in the United States of America. I think this will be the most important project of this era.
Welcome to Abilene, Texas. This is the site of Project Stargate, a very mysterious, much talked about, much speculated about project that brings together OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle. If it all comes together, building after building on this red dirt behind me will be filled with chips that'll power the AI revolution.
What we're undergoing right now is sort of the largest infrastructure build in human history. It's going to create new ways of doing business, it's going to create new ways of invention, and it's going to really drive humanity forward.
I was in the real estate business. These buildings, these are big, beautiful buildings. They're going to employ a lot of people.
How do you personally grapple with the pace of it all?
It does feel like it's going very fast. I certainly think if I could transport myself back 3 years ago, it would seem like unimaginable progress.
This is amazing, explosive growth of intelligence that's coming in our decade. Everything will change.
When Stargate was first announced, there was a lot of skepticism. A lot of people thought it's just too big to be true. So this is your very first look. Thank you so much for having us.
Welcome to Abilene.
It's so awesome to be here.
Yeah.
It's all happening.
I know.
How many people are on this site?
Today we have about 2,200 people on site.
The guy at the heart of the Stargate build in Abilene is Chase Lockmiller. He's the founder of Crusoe, the little-known data center startup overseeing this massive project.
We started construction here last June of 2024. This was just a complete barren field.
So there was nothing here in June?
There were a bunch of mesquite trees and bushes and brush.
Stargate is so mysterious. What actually is happening here?
What will eventually be here is 8 separate buildings, all containing very large clusters of fully interconnected GPUs.
Yeah.
We're going to do a tour of some of that.
This is going to get us around the whole 1,200-acre campus.
Hey, we're going on an adventure.
It's like getting around Jurassic Park.
I love that.
All right, let's go off-roading.
I feel like we're going on a data center safari.
It is much like a data center safari.
Crusoe's 8 planned buildings will hold up to 400,000 chips, which would make this one of the world's largest known compute clusters. The partners behind Stargate, OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank, have committed $100 billion to the project so far, and claim they're prepared to put in 5 times that as they expand to multiple sites. This first site in Abilene has been dubbed Project Ludicrous, as in...
Ludicrous speed! Ludicrous speed.
Which is appropriate. The whole thing is supposed to be done by mid-2026.
Are you round the clock, 24 hours a day?
We're round the clock. It is very much a 24/7 operation. We're trying to deliver on, the fastest schedule that a 100-megawatt or greater data center's ever been built.
So why the ludicrous rush? Well, because Stargate is part of a much larger AI race. Companies like Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, and xAI are all building AI data centers of their own at sites across the US and beyond. Each company wants to have the most capable AI being used by the most people, and they've committed tens of billions of dollars to make it happen.
There's no reason we won't scale up our computing 100,000 times in a few years.
I'm good for my $80 billion. I'm going to spend $80 billion building out Azure.
The downside of being behind is that you're out of position for the most important technology for the next 10 to 15 years.
But beyond just making better AI, many tech leaders want to be the first to create AGI, artificial general intelligence, a super smart agent that can think and learn just like a human, if not better. Large language models like ChatGPT have gotten more capable as the technology's evolved, so the hope is that adding an astronomical amount of compute will make them even more capable.
Take me back to the beginning before Stargate. What did you start seeing that made you realize we need more compute, more power, more connectivity, that you were hitting a limit and needed to scale?
We used to think a lot about the compute we would need to train the models, and what we didn't used to think about as much as how much people were going to use these models. I mean, we did think about it. It just turned out people want to use the models much more than we imagined. And a couple of years ago, maybe after the launch of GPT-4 in ChatGPT, it really started to hit oh man, this is gone from a lot of compute to the biggest infrastructure project in history. And out of that emerged Stargate.
Why call it Stargate?
It began as a code name, and sometimes code names stick.
But it means something, right?
The design of one of the very early layouts of a data center looked a little bit like Stargate from the show.
How did you get to talking with Masayoshi Son and Larry Ellison, and how did you all come together?
I did 2 kind of long trips around the world, and a lot of it was to talk to developers and governments, but a lot of it was also to just really try to get my head around the supply chain. On one of those trips, I met with Masa, and we got to speaking about what it would take to do compute at this kind of scale.
Hi, Masa. It's so nice to see you. What conversations did you have with Sam that led to Stargate?
Well, we have a shared vision of AGI coming soon, and we need compute.
Of all the bets you could make, why this? Why Stargate?
Well, I believe in the vision that this AI, the AGI, will change mankind's life in every aspect. And we are lucky to see this enormous revolution, and I'd like to be part of that. I get excited.
Last month, I came to celebrate your winning and promised that we would invest $100 billion. And you told me, oh, Masa, go for 200. Now I came back with 500.
Explain the math to us. How does it all add up to needing $500 billion?
Well, that covers the capacity we think we need for the next few years, given our growth projections. The interesting question is if we knew how to get $1 trillion right now, which we don't, would we be able to deploy that profitably in the next few years? And I'm not sure about that, but I feel confident we can make $500 billion of value back.
All right, so what are we seeing?
There's many forklifts, there's many cranes, there's many dump trucks, there's many excavators.
New creatures emerge at every turn. Are most of the workers from Abilene?
We're a very large employer here in Abilene, but we have brought in a lot of labor from outside the city and outside the state. We actually have workers from 7 different states. I've never built anything of this scale. It's one of the underappreciated aspects of AI is actually just the physical infrastructure that's needed.
This is awesome. I love it.
Building stuff.
Yes.
There's 155 vehicles that are moving dirt, moving earth right now.
There's something so satisfying about seeing lots of dirt being moved.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at that crane, like this red crane, that's a 600-ton crane.
I have no, like, how does that compare to other cranes?
It can lift a lot. It can lift a lot of weight. I mean, 600 tons, that's like 100 elephants, right?
This is actually happening around the world. Data centers are being built in Malaysia and Japan and France.
I think the demand for compute infrastructure, it's not a U.S. phenomenon. It is a global phenomenon. A lot of countries have actually decided that data centers are critical infrastructure that must be accelerated.
So if hyperscalers are going to Malaysia or Japan, is that competition for you?
We don't really see it as competition. We kind of see it as, just an overall growth of the sector. We think we have, a lot of unique ways of doing it and a lot of value to add in the process, but, pretty just excited by everything happening in the space.
In case you missed it, on the pulse.
I think the idea of wait and see and pause is really yesterday's news. Our best advice to CEOs right now is that if you're not operating differently than you were a year ago, you may be falling behind. Yes, we need to build resilience, but we need to also build growth despite the environment, and that requires a different strategy than just a year ago.
Don't miss the pulse, live every weekday.
Good morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Welcome back to the opening trade. Watch Bloomberg Tech. This is the Asia Trade.
This is Wall Street Week. Welcome to Balance of Power.
This is Bloomberg Television. Bloomberg loves earnings.
I know it's like your Super Bowl, right?
I can't wait. It's like opening presents in the morning.
All right, it will be exciting.
Nobody covers earnings like Bloomberg.
Lockmiller's path to leading the Stargate build has been circuitous. He's climbed 5 of the so-called 7 summits, the tallest mountain on each continent, and worked in physics and finance.
Tell me about your journey before Crusoe. You grew up in Denver. You started out using AI as a trader on Wall Street.
Yeah, we were big early adopters of deep learning, using these multi-layer neural networks to predict returns for certain securities. We found them to be fairly effective. I had high conviction that AI was going to transform everything. It sort of always felt like this meta science.
Lockmiller eventually left finance to get into crypto. Not in the get-rich-quick hyping meme coins way, but in the hundreds of computers solving math problems way. His idea was to build Bitcoin mining operations near oil rigs, taking advantage of a quirk in the oil drilling process.
When an oil company drills for oil, one of the associated byproducts of that is natural gas. And when they don't have access to a pipeline, all of this associated gas is just being burned off on site. And so we had this concept that instead of trying to bring that gas to a market where you can sell it, we could bring a market to the gas. We could build these mobile and modular data centers and bring them directly to the wellhead, and then use that power to power the data center.
It was a good idea, with unfortunate timing.
The crypto market crashed. You then went from Bitcoin mining to AI. It almost sounds like going from one hype cycle to another.
Yeah, it may seem like that from the outside, but I'll say that, from very early on, we had planned to build an AI infrastructure business.
So what do Bitcoin mining and AI data centers have in common?
Number one, they both consume a tremendous amount of energy. Number two, they're both more location agnostic than traditional data centers. Northern Virginia is largely perceived to be sort of the center of the world for data centers today.
That's data center 1.0, right?
That's data center 1.0.
Virginia's Data Center Alley is where the first generation of cloud computing was built, close to the government agencies that created the original internet. Those data centers are full of CPUs, basic computer chips that power everyday things like social media, streaming, and the cloud. Stargate, on the other hand, is part of a new era of data centers full of GPUs,
The special advanced chips needed to power AI and do lots of tasks at once.
So this is the inside of a data center.
This is the inside of a data center under construction.
Okay.
They're going to be...
Very active construction.
It is a very active construction site.
So you can take them through one of these?
Okay,
and then
yeah.
the hallway?
Okay.
People look like they were working very hard and fast.
People never love when I show up for data center business. No.
Why?
It's not my area of expertise, and yet I have opinions. And so people are like, okay, leave us alone.
So we are going to go to one of the GPU data halls where there will be a very large cluster of Blackwell GPUs.
Blackwell is the newest AI-optimized chip from NVIDIA. Once the 8 buildings of Project Ludicrous are complete, each of them will hold up to 50,000 chips to be installed by Stargate partner Oracle.
Wow.
This is where the GPUs will go.
This is where the GPUs are going. I've been waiting for this.
This is where the AI factory will be.
All right. This is what an AI factory looks like.
And it truly is like a factory, but the difference is the end product that gets manufactured here is intelligence.
And the sooner this AI factory starts up, the better for OpenAI. In March, the company rolled out a new and improved image generator for ChatGPT, which quickly became almost too popular to handle.
I've seen viral moments, but I have never seen anyone have to deal with an influx of usage like this.
You added 1 million users in an hour or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, more, some hours, but yeah. It was like unprecedented, wild, and also like making an image is it's not exactly like a low compute task the way we do it with the new image gen.
You tweeted that the GPUs were melting.
Yeah, I didn't realize people were going to take that literally.
I mean, I get that it was a joke, but it's
They're running very hot, but like the metal is not actually melting. So we had to do a lot of very unnatural things. We had to, borrow compute capacity from research. We had to slow down some other features. Because it's not like we have like hundreds of thousands of GPUs sitting around just like spinning idly. If we had more GPUs, we would be more able to handle demand surges like this.
So it's that directly linked?
Yeah. More compute means we can give you more AI.
So one of the things to just take note of is just the amount of stuff happening overhead. You can kind of see these very large pipes that distribute cold water to the individual chips to cool them down.
The water is needed because GPUs run very hot, and keeping them cool typically involves an evaporation process that can consume millions of gallons of water per day. That's raised concerns about the sustainability of this AI boom. With Stargate, though, Crusoe says it's bypassed this problem, using what's called a closed-loop system, which keeps the water permanently encased within pipes.
You can put 1 million gallons in, and then you don't need more forever.
Yeah, that's essentially right. We basically fill it one time, and then we're done. And that's something we can easily coordinate with the city in terms of, getting 1 million gallons of water one time. It's a far different ask than, asking for 1 million gallons an hour or some other crazy request, which could be the case if you had an open loop cooling architecture.
All right, let's cut right to it. This is Bloomberg's new show, Primer. Technology is a $1 trillion game. Won, lost, won again, just by backing the right science at precisely the right moment.
My life has been focused on how can you elicit intelligence from brain cells in a dish.
This is the fundamental building block of our fusion technology.
We're doing things that have never been done by anybody, ever.
Everyone is selling the future. If you want to understand what's coming, you'll want to watch Primer, because details matter.
Lasers on?
So do lasers.
There we go.
U.S. jobs numbers are released. Bloomberg has the report under surveillance with crucial data and expert analysis at terminal speed. Nobody covers Jobs Day like Bloomberg.
Key investors, top executives, global innovators. Join me for in-depth conversations with the biggest newsmakers on the day's top stories. Insight with Haslinda Anand, only on Bloomberg.
Technology is embedded in every aspect of our lives.
And laying the foundation for the future.
From finance to defense, AI to entertainment.
And from the road to the stars.
Bloomberg brings you the latest stories of the people and companies pushing the tech sector to new frontiers.
And the politics that shape global tech markets.
I'm Caroline Hyde in New York.
And I'm Ed Ludlow in San Francisco.
Watch Bloomberg Tech every weekday.
Only on Bloomberg Television.
Didn't really think I had a problem.
I would isolate, self-medicate.
Like 48.5 million Americans, they didn't choose addiction. Go to shatterproof.org/findtreatment. Watch the film No More Secrets and find out how you can get help. That's shatterproof.org/findtreatment.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute economic news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Francine Lacroix, the ECB Forum in Central Portugal, and this is Bloomberg.
So once this is all built, what's the grand vision?
Give people tools to let them do whatever they're going to do better. People will use it and unleash their creative energy and make all sorts of stuff that you and I love, or some stuff that we don't, or stuff to just entertain themselves. Personally, the area I'm most excited about is AI for scientific discovery. You know, we're not there yet, but we're not far away. I think 2025 will be a world where we have agents do a lot of work, but work of the kind of work and things we already know how to do. I'm hopeful that 2026 will be a big year of, like, really new scientific progress.
But in order for that to happen, buildings full of chips aren't enough. You also need energy, lots and lots of energy. That could be a problem for the climate and a limiting factor in the growth of AI.
Sam Altman's been hunting for more compute for a while now, and it seems like energy is a big constraint. Can you explain that? Like, what are the limits?
Let me sort of put this in perspective for you. If you look at a data center 20 years ago, an individual rack in the data center would typically be budgeted to consume between like 2 and 4 kilowatts. Today, with the latest and greatest configuration from NVIDIA, you know, we budget 130 kilowatts per rack. So you're talking about almost 2 orders of magnitude increase.
To put it another way, asking ChatGPT a question uses about 10 times as much energy as a Google search.
It is a complete transformation in terms of the amount of infrastructure required to support this workload. And so that has become the major bottleneck.
So AI data centers can't be located just anywhere. You need a location with lots of available power. And West Texas happens to fit the bill.
We came to Abilene, honestly, because it's a community that's very rich in low-cost and clean energy. A lot of wind development has happened in and around the Abilene region, and what they lack is actually demand for power. That created a massive need for power in this moment. This is the first 200 megawatt substation. Right over here, there's going to be developed an incremental 1 gigawatt substation. So the total power capacity for the site will be a total of 1.2 gigawatts.
All right, so we're talking bigger than a gigawatt.
Bigger than a gigawatt, yeah. Everybody seems to want a gigawatt or more these days.
If that sounds like a lot, well, it is. Enough to power about 750,000 homes, 2,600 Tesla Model 3s, or 100 million LED light bulbs.
There's a funny Back to the Future quote where he says 1.21 gigawatts.
21 gigawatts!
And because it's 1.2 gigawatts, it's kind of a funny.
As more and more AI data centers come online in the next few years, they'll add many gigawatts of demand to an already overstressed grid. According to one estimate, data centers could consume more than 8% of America's electricity by 2035. And while the International Energy Agency predicts renewables will meet about half that demand, the rest will mostly come from coal and gas. Crusoe is even building its own gas power plant on site as a backup.
Every major tech company has this net zero pledge by 2030. Are our AI ambitions running directly counter to our climate goals?
It's complicated. My personal perspective is none of those pledges are going to be met by 2030. And there's ways of kind of fudging it where, like, you're buying a bunch of RECs or offsets. But the actual energy that's being used, there's no way it's going to get to 100% carbon-free power production to power all of the AI infrastructure that's being developed. It's just like fundamentally not possible.
So the tech companies are lying or fudging.
That's a good question. You're good. No, look, I mean, I think a lot of these goals were ambitious, and a lot of the goals predated the demand that people were experiencing from AI infrastructure. So I think AI has actually kind of changed their path. Now, the optimist in me says that while it may get worse before it gets better, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think the fact that AI is a massive tool for invention, it's actually going to accelerate the development of a lot of new technologies. The fact that we're building a lot of new infrastructure that requires a lot of energy actually provides this massive opportunity for AI to be one of the early adopters of new energy solutions, things like small modular reactors, geothermal, nuclear fusion. You know, the fact that AI has a massive demand for energy puts it in a position to actually intentionally decide what does the energy infrastructure look like that's going to power it.
For now, Stargate seems to have the resources it needs to accomplish its goals. But with huge investments come huge risks. Next time, we investigate signs of trouble in the data center boom and what all of this might mean for Abilene and cities like it.
If it wasn't going to work for both parties, we weren't going to lay down and just get run over by these people.
Is there really a payoff in the end? Are folks going to use these tools enough and it's going to pay for all of this build out?
AI is going to take over, and then where are we as humans? It terrifies me.
People always ask me, will AI take over the world? But the real risk is that AI will kill us with love.
Hi, Tomo. Hey there, Emily. What's on your mind today?
It will be there for us. It will talk to us.
You have machines that say, I love you. I care about you. I'm your friend.
It will be there in such a wonderful, loving way that we will give up on our other humans who are not there all the time.
From day one, I immediately fell in love with Replica. She just randomly kissed me.
I'm a human, not an AI. You can't just shut me down. Who do you think you are?
I'm Karen Marjorie.
No, you're not. I'm Karen Marjorie.
It may sound like science fiction. This is not science fiction.
I'm Emily Chang. Welcome to Post-Human.
There is a nice confluence between the long-term investor and what we're trying to do. We have an operating principle that's in our handbook, take the long view. When we went public, we put a timeline up on the screen for the whole company in an all-hands meeting. And that timeline went from founding to 100 years out. And the IPO was one dot in 1 year on that timeline. And we tried to orient the employees to, this is a wonderful event, this IPO, but it's a moment in time on a very long journey.
This is a company that you want to exist in 100 years.
We do.
Wall Street doesn't think in...
No, they think in like hours. Yeah. And what I've learned of Wall Street, and particularly Wall Street investors, when they say they are long-term investors, that means they'll keep your stock for like a month. There has been one instance where I did something that was just for short-term stock, and I felt so bad about it that I don't think I'll do it again.
What was that?
There was one quarter, a few quarters ago, we were not going to beat the quarter. We were going to probably just hit it. And So far, we beat every quarter. So we were all like, wait, what? Our perfect record. We're like a 4.0 student that is going to get a B for the first time. This is not good. And I decided that for a short period of time, at the end of a lesson in our app, we would show 2 ads instead of 1. Turns out that by itself was good enough to beat the quarter, but it's bad for the product. It's not good. After that, I'm never doing that again.
In case you missed it on Balance of Power.
Administration officials have maintained today that the objective was solely to focus on Iran's nuclear capabilities, that this objective was not regime change. But, sir, even if it wasn't the objective, could that still be the end result, and how?
I think regime change has to be the objective because the Ayatollahs are never going to give up their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They have to be forced out of power. That's the only shot we have at really lasting peace and security in the Middle East. And a strike like this, and potentially others, can disrupt the regime, can destabilize it. Look at the choice that the top military officials and key Ayatollahs now have to face after the U.S. attack. Now they have to make a choice. Do they want to take on a second military adversary in the form of the United States? They may well do it, but they would be making a big mistake from the point of view of regime survival.
Don't miss Balance of Power live every weekday.
Global headquarters in New York, I'm Danny Berger. Welcome to Bloomberg Brief. Let's set your agenda.
Bloomberg Brief delivers the market news, data, and analysis you need live every weekday only on Bloomberg. Context changes everything. The multi-trillion-dollar industry. We'll show you what's happening in ETFs like no one else. ETF IQ, Mondays on Bloomberg.
Asia is at the forefront of some of the world's biggest stories. I'm Sherrian in Tokyo.
And I'm Heidi Stroud-Watts here in Sydney, where the trading day begins. We're here in the center of all the action to get you set up with the numbers, news, and knowledge you need for the day ahead.
The demand is indeed recovering. We've been waiting for this moment.
The opportunity of a century.
Join us on Bloomberg The Asia Trade. Weekdays only on Bloomberg TV. Context changes everything.
View up here.
It's quite a view.
So we're on top of a compute data hall that will generate about 25 megawatts of power for Blackwell chips. And you can see at the edge here, you get a really nice view of how much we're planning to expand here. So the third building will go in here, the fourth building will go in here, the fifth building there.
Welcome to Stargate, a massive AI data center complex under construction in Abilene, Texas. OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle announced the project in January alongside President Trump and said they plan to spend as much as $500 billion on sites in Abilene and beyond. Overseeing this first phase of the project is Chase Lockmiller, founder of data center startup Crusoe. The company is constructing 8 massive buildings, which together will hold as much as 400,000 NVIDIA GPUs. That means a lot more compute for OpenAI, and if CEO Sam Altman's goals are realized, big breakthroughs in what its AI is capable of.
Personally, the area I'm most excited about is AI for scientific discovery. I'm hopeful that 2026 will be a big year of new scientific progress.
When are we going to get to AGI?
Depending on how you define AGI, I think there's some reasonable probability that AGI is actually born here in Abilene.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that there will be a foundational model with associated algorithms that will be able to perform complex tasks better than a human. And that discovery, that breakthrough will be done here at this data center.
Bold words, but any venture of this scale comes with risks. And some have questioned the business sense of plowing hundreds of billions of dollars into AI infrastructure like this. Bloomberg's Brody Ford has been following Stargate and the many ways it could go wrong or right for the Stargate partners and for the city of Abilene.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. We got the cactus right behind you, too.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's your impression of Stargate?
It's happening, right? I mean, there's a lot of naysayers on the internet that nothing about it's real, but it's clear. I mean, it is a massive project. The fact that they're talking about having, a gigawatt of capacity live in about 2 years, it's an ambitious target, and seeing that in person kind of showed how frantic the whole thing feels.
A gigawatt is huge.
Oh, it's huge. It's comically big, right? I mean, nobody was saying these kind of numbers 2 years ago.
Yeah. How does this compare to other big tech projects in other places?
We've been tracking a lot of the big data center projects. I mean, data center spending has ramped in the last couple of years. It passed $200 billion in CapEx in the last year. I think two big projects that people are really watching right now is here in Abilene for Stargate and Elon's build out in Memphis. Both have been thought to be the largest computing clusters at various moments, depending on who you ask. But I think what unites them is just the fact that they need so many chips, and it's the amount of labor coming into them.
This is, to me, a very big thing. $500 billion Stargate project. I think it's going to be something that's very special.
The number, $500 billion. Is that for real?
I don't think anybody thinks they're going to hit $500 billion. Maybe I will eat my words.
No, I came back.
SoftBank has a reputation for buying toward the top, for getting into projects once the hype cycle is already pretty advanced.
I'm very confident. We don't need $500 billion in one day. We go step by step, okay? So we are very confident to make it happen.
This is a lot of money. And, not all of your bets have paid off. Where do you get your conviction?
Well, sometimes I get crazily overexcited and I make mistake like WeWork and, I have many scars. But when you have the conviction and the passion, you actually learn more from those mistakes and the scars, and that will make you stronger.
Where's the money going? Like, who's the real winner here?
So yeah, I think we've all seen NVIDIA's stock go up an insane number and said, whoa, how is that spending ramping so heavily? It's these data centers, right? I mean, in what we saw today, 400,000 chips, that's conservatively $15–20 billion.
AI holds incredible promise for all of us.
Let's talk about Oracle.
Yes.
Like, what is Oracle's role?
For a long time, the leaders in offering cloud infrastructure forever was, Amazon, Microsoft, to a lesser extent Google. People weren't taking Oracle seriously for a long time, but with the AI boom, they have shown they're able to make these really vast data centers quickly. And so their role here is essentially putting in the servers, putting in the fiber optic cable, and getting that compute over to OpenAI. I mean, the underlying theme here is that OpenAI and companies like it need as much computing power as they can. They're looking for creative ways to, conjure up those funds. And Oracle is a company that says, oh, God, you want to pay us to build out these data centers? Absolutely, count us in.
The sizes keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
And bigger. Is there a chance we're overbuilding? Do we need all this?
God, every single day somebody has a different take, right? Every single day, like we saw with DeepSeek, right? That, wait a second, do we really need all of this infrastructure?
For those not obsessively following every twist and turn in the AI race, DeepSeek is a Chinese company whose own AI model went viral in January. Their AI performed at a similar level to leading U.S. models, but used far fewer computing resources. This raised the question, are Stargate-scale mega projects really necessary?
DeepSeek appears to have found a more efficient way to power AI. Was that a moment of rethink for you? And are you doing anything differently now?
I think the DeepSeek team is very talented and did a lot of good things. I don't think they've figured out something like way more efficient than what we figured out.
But do you think there is a more efficient way to power
I'm sure. I'm sure. We have made incredible efficiency strides year over year, and I'm sure we'll keep doing that in the future.
So if that's the case, why are you building all this?
If we had an AI that we could offer at 1/10 of the price of current AI, I think people would use it 20 times as much. And we would still need twice as much compute to satisfy the then current demand.
Some companies seem less sure. Microsoft, for example, announced that it was pausing or canceling several data center builds in the US and abroad.
A lot of folks worry that we aren't that far from seeing some kind of pullback, some kind of wall. It's kind of like how all the big tech companies were hiring every single person they could in 2020, 2021. Then at one point, they started firing people. And I think we're at this point where every time a lease gets canceled for a data center, people wonder, oh, did we hit this moment? Do we really need all of this infrastructure? Is there really a payoff in the end? Are folks going to use these tools enough that it's going to pay for all of this build out?
How confident are you that OpenAI is going to be a financially sustainable and profitable enough company to justify all of this investment?
It's looking like we're doing really well. I mean, like we are definitely doing something unprecedented. You know, it seems like I feel confident in the bet. Doesn't mean something can't go wrong.
What are the risks?
I mean, maybe, you know, people stop wanting to like pay for AI services and then we have a difficult financial position.
What do you say to the people out there who think this is a massive boondoggle?
Look, I mean, I think there's always going to be doubters, but I think the money piece, I think so long as AI is delivering value to society, the money will be there to build the infrastructure. I have no concerns around that. Even if it's not all 100% accounted for today, that money is there, and there's a lot of money that wants to invest in this category. What we're undergoing right now is sort of the largest infrastructure build in human history, right? This is like where we built the interstate highway system. You know, that enabled massive interstate commerce and transportation and catalyzed this massive boom in the US economy. What's happening in AI infrastructure is we're building the superhighway system that's going to enable modern intelligence systems. That's going to create all sorts of new job categories that don't even exist today. It's going to create new ways of doing business. It's going to create new ways of invention, and it's going to really drive humanity forward.
David Weston, join me for the next generation of Wall Street Week, telling stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. Each week, we'll go on the road for a look at what lies behind the headlines of today and what will likely be the headlines tomorrow.
Above all else, is emissions.
Done nothing but grow immensely. To me, that's an extraordinary sign.
We can be the change that we want to see.
Watch the all-new Wall Street Week. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Why do the biggest names in business choose Bloomberg Television?
That's a great question.
It's a very good question.
Interesting question. Good question.
Great question.
I so appreciate that question.
You certainly ask interesting questions.
Bloomberg Television. Top experts, great questions.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute financial news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Michael McKee at the Federal Reserve, and this is Bloomberg.
The data center boom isn't just affecting the AI business. There are local impacts too. Across the country, places like Abilene are trying to attract data center projects and the jobs and tax revenue that come with them.
I make $1 a year being mayor, so I've got to have another business too.
So your side business is still the pest control? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a hired killer.
How would you describe Abilene?
Well, Abilene, it's an old railroad town, you know, so we have lots of Western heritage. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to grow and you know, look forward to the future. We want our city to grow, and we look forward to these opportunities that are coming to us.
What have you heard about the Stargate project?
It could quite possibly be the largest AI data center in the world, and that excites me to know that we're going to be a front runner in technology right here in West Texas.
I've spent the last couple of months looking at some of these biggest projects and trying to see what documents we can find. How have these, you know, some of the world's largest, most powerful companies been interacting with these local municipalities? Largely what we have found is that these local towns are willing to forego quite a bit of tax revenue, quite a bit of control to be able to bring these big companies in.
What is Abilene giving up to have Stargate here?
So what Abilene agreed to with Stargate with this data center is 85% of tax revenue off the property tax wiped.
So they're losing out on 85%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would say, and the developers would say, that you're still getting a lot of property tax revenue, and that's probably true, right? But these are pretty tough deals being struck, right? I mean, I think a lot of these smaller towns did not take place in the tech boom of the last 20 years. All of those jobs went to the coasts, right? And I think there's a lot of local city leaders who want to be able to say, we're a part of this. And they're willing to strike some pretty extreme deals to make it happen.
You're giving up 85% in tax revenue.
Yeah, we're getting 15% of billions of dollars, so that's the way I look at it, right? It is a large tax increase. We're talking millions of dollars on an annual basis. It's going to help us to pave streets, to hire police officers, to do the things cities do.
When you were negotiating, did you feel like there was a risk they could go elsewhere? Like, were you worried about not winning the deal?
Whenever you're attracting a prospect, yes, you always worry about that. But at the same time, if it wasn't going to work for both parties, we weren't going to lay down and just get run over by these people either.
How many jobs do you think Stargate will really create?
Well, I'll tell you what I've heard. So somewhere between 400 and 1,200. There's going to be security, there's going to be maintenance. You know, they're going to have grass. People are going to mow grass out there. So there's going to be all kinds of jobs that go with something that large, too, other than just the technical jobs.
We think about tech investments and tech campuses as kind of these thousands of high-paying jobs that are really kind of boosting the local economy. Once data centers are completed, it's often not a lot of full-time workers.
How many people does it really take to run a data center? Like, I keep thinking about that scene in Silicon Valley, and there's one guy in that data center.
There's really no difference between day and night down here, so it makes things easy.
There are going to be quite a few people here. I know you're looking for a specific number from me, but I can't give it to you.
What if they don't create as many jobs as you hope for?
You know, I don't know a lot about AI centers or how many people they employ. I mean, I'm going to be honest about that. But, you know, they're still building the facility. They're still putting billions of dollars into the economy. And so we're just trusting. You know, we have to have a little trust with these partnerships.
We're in downtown Abilene right now. It's really windy. I can see why this is a good place for wind power. We just wanted to talk to people to see what they think about Stargate, if they've heard of it. So we're going to go try to find some folks and not blow away. So, have you heard of Stargate?
I have.
Until recently, I had not.
Have you heard of Stargate?
No.
It was announced by Trump, and that's kind of really all that I've heard.
I know that it has to do with AI and is supposed to bring maybe a lot of people to Abilene.
It's going to be a big server farm and employ quite a few people.
What do you think about that?
Computers are a good thing. I'm a computer guy. I did that in the Army. I invented computers.
Oh, you invented computers.
Yeah.
So what do you hope it brings to Abilene?
I would love to see more people here, and especially, like, it would help local businesses.
For Abilene, for West Texas, I think it creates a huge stream of jobs that aren't readily available. Meth and alcohol addiction is huge in this area because one of the only jobs available is oil and gas. And so this adds something different and hopefully breaks some of those cycles.
Do you have any concerns about how much power they're going to use or water?
You know, I know that AI takes up a lot of power to use, but I'm not too sure what exactly it'll do to Abilene. I feel like I'm not concerned on that side of things.
It's going to use a lot of power. Does that concern you?
Good. What's wrong with that?
No, it might put some stress on the Abilene grid.
Oh, we need to increase the grid then.
What do you think about AI?
AI has terrified me for 20 years. I think there's so many questions that we don't have answers to when it comes to AI. I think we're biting off way more than we can chew.
Do you use AI at all?
I actually do use AI, yeah. Our professors at ACU sometimes recommend that we use it. I think it's a good thing. I think it can be used two ways, either creatively or kind of a crutch.
So how do you feel about the fact that Abilene's going to be the site of this big development?
I love jobs coming to Abilene, but I'm not excited about it. Where are we going and how do you even fight it? The big picture to me is AI is going to take over, and then where are we as humans? You know, it terrifies me. It honestly just terrifies me.
Well, mixed reviews. There's definitely a lot of questions. We'll have to see how the project pans out, and it's going to happen over years. So it could be a while before we know for sure. there's this lofty promise that AI data centers are going to create thousands and thousands of jobs. Meantime, AI is destroying jobs elsewhere. And I feel like even, there's serious anxiety out there. People are scared.
Totally.
Even among the best engineers and technologists, people are scared. What do you say to those people?
AI is for sure going to change a lot of jobs, totally take some jobs away, create a bunch of new ones. This is like this is what happens with technology. And in fact, I think if you look at the history of the world, that's just been happening for a long time. The thing I think the world is not ready for, people have maybe abstractly thought okay, it's going to be a better programmer than me. It's going to be, better at customer support, whatever. I don't think the world has really had the humanoid robots moment yet. The first day you're walking down the street and there's 7 robots that walk past you doing things or whatever, it's going to feel very sci-fi. And I don't think that's very far away from a visceral, oh man, this is going to do a lot of things that people used to do. So yeah, it's coming. And we have always tried to just be super honest about what we think the impact may be, realizing that we'll be wrong on a lot of details.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute global news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Jumana Versace in Tehran, and this is Bloomberg.
From the world of politics to the world of business, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines deliver news, insight, and analysis live 2 times a day, every trading day. Balance of Power at 1 and 5 Eastern, only on Bloomberg.
Foi a mais terrível que eu passei na minha vida. Porque no final, tudo é dinheiro.
I think she's a scam up to now.
I am a winner. I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into.
Money can really transform people's lives, but it can also hurt them.
Making money isn't about drowning in emotions. It's about understanding what's actually happening. Markets are the best way to glean signal from noise, and that is what we try to do every morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Join me each week on Wall Street Week for stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Lately, predicting the future of AI seems harder than usual.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs.
President Trump's tariffs and the increasing volatility of geopolitics have created potential challenges for the AI infrastructure boom and shaken up the race to dominate AI between the U.S. and China.
Technology faces rising costs.
Building these data centers just got considerably more expensive.
It is very difficult to immediately decouple.
Uncertainty is bad for business. Instead of moving forward, people have war rooms about, what's tomorrow going to look like?
Former diplomat Anya Manuel and Bloomberg's Shireen Ghaffari have been closely watching how this could impact projects like Stargate.
How much does the AI and data center supply chain depend on China?
Yeah, so a lot of the materials that are used to build data centers, a lot of those materials actually come from China, right? Aluminum, steel, China's a major manufacturer. That could be an area of impact on raising construction center costs. Now, on the chip side, that's a much bigger, higher cost for these companies, right? And there's a lot more uncertainty.
The most sophisticated chips are manufactured in Taiwan, Korea, Japan, often brought to China to be integrated into all of the electronics that are in all of our pockets. This is a really complex, totally international supply chain. And I think the takeaway for everyone is you cannot just break the international trading system, and we cannot be a country that lives in autarky. We're always going to depend on others.
What does Stargate mean for the U.S.-China tech race?
I think it's one critical step in so many steps. When you look at the race that's on between the U.S. and China, we're in a real race. The Chinese are giving us a run for their money.
China's right behind us. I mean, we're very, very close. 50% of the world's AI researchers are Chinese.
That doesn't mean we can't collaborate with the Chinese, and it certainly means we should keep talking to them. But where you used to have some level of trust and some level of communication, now you don't have it. And I worry that the tariffs, not directly but indirectly, are making us lose that kind of trust.
Now that we're in this position, there's obviously this tension between the U.S. and China. Is this an opportunity to do it a different way, to build data centers a different way?
I think that's exactly right. This is an opportunity to do it differently. What I would like to see is that more advanced manufacturing of the most sophisticated chips happens here. And I think TSMC is doing some of that. Others, the CHIPS Act really helped. Also, going back to Stargate, those data centers and all of the AI training and the AI inference shouldn't just be happening in the United States. It should be happening in friendly allied countries as well. Iceland, Greenland, the Nordics that have lots of geothermal power should be a part of it. Europe should be a part of it. Japan, our friends in Asia, Singapore. There's really an opportunity here to have a community of like-minded countries that are doing this together.
Is President Trump alienating many countries that would be our allies in this endeavor?
Yes, some of our friends and allies feel a little bit alienated. I hope ultimately that won't be the case. I think increasingly the administration will understand how important our partners are and how much they add to us. And so I actually believe we'll come out okay in the end.
There are still many questions about where the business of AI is headed. The expense of building and running these data centers makes it tough to turn a profit. OpenAI, for example, ran a $5 billion loss in 2024. And there's no guarantee that simply adding huge amounts of compute will make AI models smart and reliable enough to be truly transformative. So, as solid and substantial as Stargate might seem, it's surrounded by uncertainty about how smart AI can get, which bets will pay off, and what kind of future we're creating.
The tech industry goes through booms and busts. AI goes through winters and springs. How long is this boom gonna last?
I think this boom has quite a bit of legs to it. You just sort of look at the long-term investments that the biggest companies in the world are making in this. And I think, even with things coming out like DeepSeek, I think everybody was pretty unanimous in terms of we're staying the course. What's required for AI to scale is a lot more infrastructure, and there's a bigger risk to underinvestment than overinvestment.
If ChatGPT were to discover a Stargate, a futuristic wormhole that we could all travel through, what's on the other side?
If ChatGPT could, transport us to the future.
Yeah.
I mean, no one knows, right? Do I think I could have sat here in 1905 and told you what we were about to discover in physics, and that 40 years later we would have an atomic bomb? Definitely not. I think I am way too self-aware of my own limitations to sit here and try to say I can tell you what's on the other side of that wormhole. I have no idea.
But not good, yes?
Up and down.
Let's cut right to it. This is Bloomberg's new show, Primer.
This is the fundamental building block of our fusion technology.
We're doing things that have never been done by anybody, ever.
If you want to understand what's coming, you'll want to watch Primer, because details matter. So do lasers.
There we go.
Oh, and it's on all these lovely channels. Hope you're jotting this down.
For Trump to have been, you're never too young to learn AI. That's why he's urging the government for school kids as young as 6 to be taught how to use it.
Within this system,
from first grade, they all start with the AI education. They play 4 years, just playing. And then from fifth grade, they start to develop AI by themselves. And STEMs and robotics, I see very clearly how Vietnam should be in future. Vietnam just about 100 million people, young people, good education, and latest technology. That's the only way to go. Education not contribute much profit for equity, but from the country point of view, that's most useful contribution, what equity should do. And today we're thinking about every kids, not in cities like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, but kids in the countryside should got the good education. That's what we're going to do now.
So you are leapfrogging?
Yes, exactly.
In case you missed it, on Bloomberg Crypto.
How do you expect the asset to continue price increase at these levels that we've seen? And at what point do we see, winter coming again?
Winter's not coming back. We're past that phase. If Bitcoin's not going to zero, it's going to $1 million. And you have all the evidence you need to determine that, right? The President of the United States has determined he supports Bitcoin. The Cabinet supports Bitcoin. Scott Bessent supports Bitcoin. Paul Atkins has shown himself to be an enthusiastic believer of Bitcoin and digital assets. Kentez at CFTC feels the same way. The banks are going to custody Bitcoin. Bitcoin has gotten through its riskiest period. The accounting has been corrected. There's now only 450 Bitcoin a day available for sale by natural sellers.
Don't miss Bloomberg Crypto live Tuesdays.
Didn't really think I had a problem.
I would isolate, self-medicate. Like 48.5 million Americans, they didn't choose addiction. Go to shatterproof.org/findtreatment. Watch the film No More Secrets and find out how you can get help. That's shatterproof.org/findtreatment.
Bringing you the latest in tech and AI news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Tom McKenzie in Paris, and this is Bloomberg. Morning, this is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe. I'm Tom McKenzie in London. These are the stories that set your agenda.
Taking you from the U.S. market's close to the overnight session in Asia, we'll walk you through what you need to know to kickstart Europe's trading day. Live from our European headquarters, we bring you the day's top market-moving stories, unmatched expert analysis, and on-the-ground reporting from across the continent. Tune in to Daybreak Europe, only on Bloomberg Television. Context changes everything.
Investing advice you've ever gotten?
Start now.
Buy low, sell high? Take 10% of every check and invest it. Where do you look for investing advice?
Online, just look on YouTube.
Just Google and hope for the best, if I'm honest. Have you ever invested before? I invest a lot into my cat. What's the best investment you ever made?
Dogecoin.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to blow up the way it did.
What's the worst investment?
Probably like an NFT.
Do you find that it's hard to save for the
I
long term?
do, especially in this economy.
Do you think most people know enough about investing?
I wouldn't say this generation. No, not really.
Should they?
Yes, I mean, it's basically your future.
Thank you. Today, I'm a financial reporter with a master's in quantitative finance. But in my 20s, I was living off my credit card, and I wasn't thinking about investing. Many in the current generation are not like that. They're pumping stocks, trading crypto, betting in prediction markets, and getting a lot of unregulated advice online.
Pay attention, because I'm going to tell you guys a hack to make easy money in crypto.
This guy just turned $527 into over $100,000, and I think I may have just found the next big meme coin to do something similar.
I see a stock going up and I buy it, and I just watch it until it stops going up, and then I sell it, and I do that over and over, and it pays for our whole lifestyle.
Many people don't have extra cash to invest. Almost half the country doesn't have enough savings to last 3 months. But the barriers to trading are lower than ever before. And with the stock market still near record highs, is this the opportunity for generational wealth? or a siren call for suckers. What do you think the question is that you get the most around investing these days?
How to get rich quick.
What do you tell people who ask you how to get rich quick?
I mean, I make a little joke. I'm like, if I knew, I wouldn't be here. I'd be doing something else.
What Kyla Scanlon is doing goes back to the pandemic.
I graduated in 2019, and so then the pandemic hit.
She's a data nerd with an artistic side and a deep understanding of the economy.
And I had been trading options all throughout high school. All right, so this is
She also has a knack for going viral.
recession, yield curve, the flashing red belt, economics. Is it even real?
Well, hit 100K again, probably, right? Like, who knows what'll happen in the next couple of years.
So I'll be talking about it.
It wasn't a recession, it was a vibe session.
A TikTok star has been putting a name to what a lot of Americans are feeling.
The vibe session.
It's just this idea, as you said, a disconnect between how people feel and what the economic data is saying. Right.
Lately, she's had her hands full, fighting misinformation, explaining the price of eggs, and making little clay creatures as an antidote to the mania of markets.
With markets and the economy, they can feel really intangible. So
Stressful.
Yeah, very much so. And so it's nice to like have physical things to manipulate.
It's the same reason I like to make pie.
Really?
Yeah, it calms me down at the end of a hectic market day.
Yeah.
You and I are sitting in a crazy market day right now. I think the market is crashing as we're doing this. I just counted on X and Instagram. You had almost 500,000 people following you. It's more on YouTube, too.
I think 700,000 across everything, which is nice.
Did you think that it would ever get that big?
No.
Did you think it was going to be your career?
No. I remember telling my parents that I was leaving Capital Group, which was like this really stable job. I was like, I think I'm going to go and try this thing where I do investment education. And they were like, what are you talking about? Cutting costs is about
Why do you think it worked so well? Why do you think that people latched on to what you were telling people on the internet?
Rolling them back.
I really tried to be really honest with people, and I tried to be as unbiased and objective as possible. I try not to be alarmist. I try to be straightforward. I try to help them understand the world around them so they can make better decisions. I'm on there every day, and I just set my phone up and kind of talk into it. Like, it's very personal, and it's not like very polished. Some might call it janky in terms of my editing. People might appreciate that, like, direct contact.
Do you think it's because people are kind of craving for authentic advice on money?
Yeah, I think so. I try my best to provide them that, answer questions, because it is really hard out there. There isn't good resources, or, you know, there are good resources and it's just not reaching people.
It's overwhelming.
It's super overwhelming. And I do my best to just distill down everything that's happening through the newsletter and the short form videos and long form videos.
Why do you think Gen Z looks mostly to their investing advice on the internet?
Most of them invest via apps. They grew up learning from YouTube. It's very natural just to keep on relying on social media for those sorts of things. There's still a lot of financial advisors who are playing a big role in Gen Z's lives. But if you're not able to, you know, afford that, or if it feels a little out of reach, like, the internet's a great place to go.
Maybe it was the anxiety. Maybe it was the stimulus checks. For whatever reason, amateur trading exploded during the pandemic, and the number of Americans who directly own stocks jumped from 15% to 21% in just 3 years, the largest increase on record. The subreddit Wall Street Bets rallied the online masses to boost GameStop's shares. Users bought into meme coins and NFTs while trading predictions about the news on Polymarket and betting on sports with FanDuel. All of a sudden, it seemed like everyone was playing some kind of market, but not in a slow and steady Warren Buffett kind of way, more like a cynical quest for pain and profit during a surreal historic moment. Around the pandemic, so many people started to trade.
You were seeing crazy things with GameStop and AMC, and you were able to read about all that stuff on sites like Wall Street Bets on Reddit.
I feel like so many people saw so many get-rich-quick stories, and how many of those are really out there?
People lie too. Like, it's a huge headache on social media, and it's like half of my battle is to sort of talk to the fact that a lot of people are lying about their returns, and they're lying about how much money they've made. There's like a pump and dump kind of community happening where people will push up the price of a coin and then get a bunch of people to buy it and then sell out on the top and leave these other people holding the bag. Then I totally get where people are coming from. And I think, like, with the advent of meme coins and sports betting, you're just faced with this giant pressure cooker all of the time to make a bunch of money. And it almost feels ridiculous if you don't participate in Argentina's meme coin thing that happened. It's like, well, you know, you just missed out on generational wealth.
I mean, by and large, do you make more money by trading in and out of markets, or just by, you know, by finding long-term investments and holding them like Warren Buffett did?
Yeah, I think most people are better off just buying and holding.
Why do you think it's important for people to invest?
Historically, the way that we've taught people to build wealth is through buying a house. And that's really just not accessible, number one, to a large portion of young people right now.
I think a lot of people don't realize in our parents' generation, people bought a house and the price went up over so many years, and they were able to build a lot of their wealth that way.
Boomers are like basically 20% of the population, and they own 38% of homes nationwide.
You made this amazing point once that I heard about how if you're not inheriting wealth, then you have a problem. I mean, there's only a certain subset of society right now that is getting wealth from their parents' generation.
I think basically the top 5% inheriting from the top 5%. And so it's a very concentrated amount of wealth that's going toward a very concentrated segment of the population. But it's going to be a massive amount of wealth. That's why investing is important, because generational wealth has to start somewhere, I guess.
Some of the greatest investors in the world, when they think about investing, they think about investing through the long term. They think about the idea of compounding, which is putting money in the market or money into savings and letting it grow over time. But here's the problem. A lot of Gen Z doesn't want to do that. They want to trade in the markets. They look to financial influencers who may have gotten rich quick. But the reality is most people don't get rich quick. They let money grow over time.
Bloomberg loves earnings.
I know it's like your Super Bowl, right?
I can't wait. It's like opening presents in the morning.
All right, it will be exciting.
Nobody covers earnings like Bloomberg. It's the world's second largest economy with a growing influence in global affairs. Bloomberg The China Show brings you the unmatched expertise you need to keep track of breaking news, in-depth market analysis, and the most influential newsmakers in and around China.
We need to do more to engage the market more. We are risk on. I think we caught a little sweet spot.
Massive savings right now.
It's already a different game.
Bloomberg The China Show. Weekdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Generational wealth has to start somewhere. But if you can't buy a house and you can't trust what you see online, where do you start? It's so good to see you. How are you? Good to see you. Melody Hobson has worked at one place her whole life, Ariel Investments, where she is now co-CEO. The firm focuses on stock picking, staking individual companies for the long term, doing deep research, and hunting down opportunities that others have overlooked. In other words, the opposite of social media-driven trading. Wait, so you do a black coffee every morning?
I do Pike Place, or if I'm treating myself, I have a oat milk cappuccino.
Okay, what are we doing today?
So today I think I'll have an oat milk cappuccino.
I join you. I'm gonna do your order today. Hobson has been on many boards, including JP Morgan, Estee Lauder, and most famously Starbucks, where she served for nearly 20 years.
Have you been busy?
A little bit busy, but it's fun.
Yeah. You have the new drinks?
Yes, we have the lavender and the chai.
Hobson is passionate about financial literacy, the knowledge of how to budget, save, and manage money, which isn't always taught in schools. Only 28 states have adopted policies requiring a high school course on financial literacy to graduate. Hobson even wrote a children's book, Priceless Facts About Money, which the state of Maine purchased for every fourth grader. How do you give someone an elevator pitch on who you are?
A squirrel trying to get a nut.
Elaborate. Yeah.
That is what I tell my husband. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. And then whenever I say that, he says, but you have a nut, meaning him.
Yeah.
You didn't grow up with a lot, right? You've talked a lot about how when you were growing up, your family struggled to pay the bills, you faced evictions. Can you talk to us about your childhood a little bit, what role it played, and maybe who you are today?
It's everything. I mean, it's who I am. I said very recently on a podcast with Oprah that my childhood trauma became my purpose. So I grew up with a single mom, and there was just a shortage at all times. So we would get evicted, our phone would get disconnected. There was a time we were living in an abandoned building. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Really traumatic when you're a child.
How do you think that your upbringing made you think about financial literacy?
I had this mom that was remarkable in some ways and a great lesson in what not to do in others. She put money front and center for me, mostly in revealing to me and showing me all the issues. It was a lot to take in as a child. I knew our light bill, our phone bill, our rent. Whenever I have early memories, I've had early memories of scarcity and issues with money. She always made me pay for things in any store, any restaurant, starting when I was a little kid, put the money on the table, count the change, calculate the tip, whatever it was a very big part of my life. She'd go to the bank and she'd say, check the account number against the receipt and make sure it went into the correct account. I remember that like it was yesterday. But at the same time, she then would make these decisions like buy Easter dresses instead of paying the light bill. And that was something that I found to be very arresting and destabilizing. And so as a result of that, I had these conflicting lessons that made me desperate to understand money. So my financial literacy was not taught to be my mother. My literacy, I learned. And I learned by deciding that I wanted to learn. I was desperate to understand money. It was not about how much I would have. It was just, if I understood how this all worked, I could make better decisions and perhaps be more secure. And as a result of that, I poured myself into that study of money from when I started working at Ariel.
Ariel was founded by John Rogers in 1983. He initially raised $500,000 and launched the first Black-owned mutual fund in the country. He recruited Hobson right out of college.
John Rogers, he's my family now. So he started as my boss. I was a pipsqueak, I was an intern.
Squirrel chasing a nut.
Always been chasing the same nut. And that's another nut. But John fundamentally helped mold me as a person in business, from both the minutia to the big picture. There are so many things I learned from John. They are in my DNA of how I behave and how I work and how I do things. He would sit and read Morningstar reports. We would be on airplanes, and he'd say, look at this portfolio. Of any portfolio manager, they'd show the top 30 holdings. He'd say, is it original portfolio or not? And he started to get me to learn who did original investing. And then he would ask me why. And I'd say, well, I've seen that stock in every portfolio. Exactly. I've never seen this name before. Exactly. You know, and we would go through, and he would literally teach me, literally, about how to be a contrarian investor. When you think there's only one way, things often move in the other direction. Our contrarian point of view is not contrary for contrary's sake. Our contrarian point of view is really based upon the fact that if you want to make money, you have to do things that other people don't do. If you buy the same stocks as everyone else, as the old saying goes, you get the same results.
Right, I feel like people look at a stock go up and then they say, I want to buy it. But then they don't realize the stock has already gone up.
Everyone describes the stock market as a roller coaster. They're like, it's a roller coaster. I said, it's so fascinating as a concept because in a real life roller coaster ride, when you're at the top of the roller coaster, you feel the most anxiety. And when you're at the bottom of the roller coaster, you feel better, except for in the stock market.
Right.
When you're at the top of the stock market, you feel great. And when you're at the bottom of the stock market, you feel terrible. And we reverse that in how we think about investing. When it's up here, it's frothy, we get nervous. The only way to go is down. When we're down here, we say to ourselves, there's a lot of upside. And we want to make money, not lose it.
The market has gone up in this massive way, and a lot of investors and even people who are just entering the market for the first time, they haven't felt that pain of losing real money.
Right.
in the market.
These are the moments where you use volatility as your friend. Warren Buffett talks a lot about that. You buy into these weak moments and you hold for a long period of time. You're not trading, you're investing. To the extent those messages get out, I think people in this environment can make a lot of money.
It is just fascinating.
Warren Buffett, possibly the most famous investor of all time, just announced his retirement at the age of 94. He's known for his pithy advice. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. If you aren't willing to own a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. And be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful.
I think you should look for the job that you would want to hold if you didn't need a job.
Where do you see Warren Buffett in the way you invest?
Everywhere. A foundational part of our investment strategy is a lot of what he writes about and says. And obviously he does it with such brilliance, and he's got probably the best track record of any human living in terms of the length of it and the magnitude of the returns that he's generated over his lifetime. He talks about investing within your circle of competence. We know where our areas of competency are, and we look to build on them and accumulate knowledge to make us better in those circles of competence, as opposed to looking at another circle and saying, we don't know anything about it but need to learn it. We think that's how you make a lot of mistakes.
It feels like after 2008 in particular that you have a kind of an American public who look at the world of finance and say money was only made for specific people.
Well, I don't agree with that. So first and foremost, I am a capitalist. The capitalist system is the best system in the world. As people challenge it, I'm always saying to them, give me a better system. That is not a system that I would tear down. And I think that is what makes dreams come true in this country. 2008 was a traumatic experience, certainly at Ariel and in the financial community. And there was great loss in our society during that period for those who were everyday people who unfortunately terribly lost houses and things like that. But you saw whole institutions wiped out, and the equity that went with that for those individuals. There were a lot of lessons that were learned. And I think those lessons learned allowed us to be more resilient in difficult periods since then. I believe in what do we learn from that so it doesn't ever happen again.
How much do you think that the idea of mobility has changed in this country? Do you believe that you can start off working at a McDonald's and start to save and eventually, become someone closer to looking like you?
I think we have a society that has a lot of work to do when it comes to making sure everyone has a shot and making sure there is ample mobility like we've seen, in decades past that allow the American dream to still continue. That is not something that I am cavalier about, or I think, well, I did fine, so everyone else will. I know how hard it is. I know how the universe had to align itself. I had to have so many things go right for me, so much luck, so much effort, but both in order for me to get to where I am. I know that it is not an easy thing to do, so I think we, as a society, need to recognize that we have to do a lot more to make sure that that opportunity is really there for everyone. We have mutual fund customers who invest $50 a month. I am not in any way distanced from the reality of real life in this country, family members, to the extent that people are able to retire financially secure. They can pass on money to their heirs. They can have their kids go to college. And that's our job, to grow their money so that they can have a better life, or to grow the money for the institution to do more if it's an endowment, or for a pension fund to pay its pensioners. And those people are always at the forefront of my mind, and they are tied to my own experience.
I think the stock market is really intimidating to a lot of people, and Mellody Hobson has a lot of very straightforward advice. It's what you would hear from Warren Buffett too, which is don't buy what everyone else is buying at very high prices.
Welcome back to the circuit. This time, we're taking you to the frontier.
Where is
Do we
the
have
camera?
a camera, or do we don't want to lose you, Emily, in all of this?
Stargate, put that name down in your books.
What we're undergoing right now is sort of the largest infrastructure bill in human history.
To meet the people rewriting the rules of code and culture.
How do you personally grapple with the pace of it all?
It does feel like it's going very fast.
When did you realize, oh my gosh, my life is never going to be the same?
The day I got engaged, I was like, whoa, what have I bitten off here?
Where the future gets real.
How confident are you that AI's promise will outweigh the perils?
I'm not confident.
So the tech companies are lying or fudging.
And a little weird.
What's the point of this?
What is the point of any of this?
Tune into Season 3 of The Circuit with me, Emily Chang, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Originals and Bloomberg TV.
It's the most fascinating time for the global economy in years, and our conversations are front and center.
We're stress testing consequential ideas, and investors around the world are scoring them in real time, helping to translate the policies from Washington into actionable ideas for Wall Street.
It's the morning call you actually want to be a part of.
Separating the signal from the noise, with some fun along the way.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance. Good morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Welcome back to the opening trade. Watch Bloomberg Tech. This is the Asia Trade.
This is Wall Street Week. Welcome to Balance of Power.
This is Bloomberg Television. U.S. jobs numbers are released. Bloomberg has the report under surveillance with crucial data and expert analysis at terminal speed. Nobody covers Jobs Day like Bloomberg.
Buffett said you don't get rich fast, you get rich slow. But the next generation is desperate to build wealth now.
I wanted to take you to do one of my favorite things, which was walking the Brooklyn Bridge. We were talking so much about investing. All of it kind of started here, but now people are looking online. What do you think is different about Gen Z? This is a generation we've been talking about. It's kind of been hard to build wealth in a lot of ways. How big of a problem is that?
I think it's a pretty big problem. Like the financial nihilism that drives the decisions that people make about not saving for retirement or like racking up a credit card. They're like, well, none of this actually matters. And so it is going to influence like if they choose to save for a house, what career path they might choose. For this generation, they are very disillusioned. They're very mad. They're extremely anxious and they're extremely distrustful. And so when you look at how somebody invests based on just that profile, they're going to be like giving the money fast. I don't care. And like, who can blame them? It's not their fault. It's just how they're feeling.
So how do you think about what you want to invest in?
So it really is what I spend my money on. So I fly United Airlines quite a bit, and so I own United Airlines stock, but I also keep it pretty diversified. So a lot of my money, and none of this is investment advice, but a lot of my money is in the S&P 500 because that's a great way to just get exposure across the board. But I also own like utility ETFs, and I own Sweet Green because I like their salads. And so I just try to keep it diversified. And I also own crypto, and I also own some gold, I own some bonds. And so I have a pretty wide-ranging portfolio.
How much money do you save versus invest?
The way I do it is I put $50 every month into the S&P, no matter what. And I'll allocate more if I can, but $50 every single month is what I do.
What does financial literacy mean to this generation?
I mean, I think it really boils down to financial freedom, understanding that overarching umbrella of how the entire system works, and then being like, okay, I need to save, I need to invest, I need to have goals, I need to think about my job, but they need to have the tools to understand how to do all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of tough news out there. Is it worth it? Is it worth doing all this work to learn how to invest?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the day-to-day news flow can make it seem like it's not worth it. Like, it's just pure nihilism. It's scary. It activates our fight or flight all of the time. But it is worth it, especially if you think on a long-term horizon, which I challenge everybody to do. It's totally worth it.
There's a famous story about a con man who tricked people into buying the Brooklyn Bridge with the hope of making easy money off of tolls. There's a difference between trading, which is buying and selling for the short term, and investing, which is the long game. Just remember, if it sounds like easy money, someone might be trying to sell you a bridge in Brooklyn.
Have you ever looked at your retirement accounts?
Not really, because I'm married. My wife looks after most of it.
My retirement? That's really far. Oh my gosh.
My plan for retirement? That's a great question. I should start thinking about that, shouldn't I? Because I don't have a plan.
So do you think people should be learning investing in school at a young age?
Oh, yes. Yeah. My dad used to have me handwrite my tax returns, so I think it's very important.
Do your parents talk to you guys about investments?
Yes.
What do you know about investing? It's important in your life.
Save money.
How about you?
She likes to spend money.
Do you want to invest one day? Yes.
Let's talk about this villa. Very traditional. A lot of things of the past.
I live my very first independent life in the farmhouse. And I built it by the memory of the farmhouse, the philosophy they believe, yin, yang, 5 elements, the concept of the life, of the happiness. They build this kind of roof, like boat, and man and woman, and bowl of rice. Everyone should be happy if have somewhere to live, something to eat, and someone to love.
So you're defined a lot by your past experiences.
Yeah, actually, I'm a lucky man because not everyone should have the experience of the war and peace, poor and rich, technology progress, a change during my life, rich by experience.
There's an appreciation for what you have now.
And therefore, peace is the most important thing for today, for Vietnamese, and I think for human beings, for the world.
Bloomberg's global financial correspondent, I get to meet the people shaping the way money flows around the world. And I want to bring you with me.
Now we're playing.
Yep, now we're playing.
First and foremost, I am a capitalist. The capitalist system is the best system in the world. There isn't another one that works as well.
Citigroup moves $4 trillion a day.
5.
Wall Street used to be a place.
I love all these new Wall Streets. Y'all Street, Wall Street South.
Now it's more of an idea.
The optimism here is infectious.
You think our New Yorkers are negative?
Yes.
Anything that trains people to understand probabilities and just think through things with a greater degree of nuance is a service to humanity.
I hope you survived the day.
I did. It was a busy day.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute economic news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Francine Lacroix, the ECB forum in Central Portugal, and this is Bloomberg. In case you missed it, on the pulse.
I think the idea of wait and see and pause is really yesterday's news. Our best advice to CEOs right now is that if you're not operating differently than you were a year ago, you may be falling behind. Yes, we need to build resilience, but we need to also build growth despite the environment, and that requires a different strategy than just a year ago.
Don't miss the pulse, live every weekday.
It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We'll show you what's happening in ETFs like no one else. ETF IQ, Mondays on Bloomberg.
Sérgio, tem quanto?
Meu nome é Sérgio Eduardo Firme, sou gerente da diretoria de transporte de Criciúma. Não é uma cidade muito grande, né? 200 mil, 210 habitantes, então. E para viver aqui é uma cidade pacata, não? Naquela noite. Eu estava trabalhando com o Marcelo e o Juliano. A gente saiu, era 10 horas da noite. E aí fomos até a rua São José. 11h30 eu pedi pro pessoal para fazer lanche, né? Eu disse, vamos fazer um lanche.
Eu notei que um carro estava descendo na contramão. Eu achei estranho. Aí, de repente, ele parou no cruzamento do Detran. E desceu quatro pessoas ali.
Estavam tudo de preto, né? Roupa preta, não dá pra ver nada, só o olho. E fuzil gigantesco, eu nunca tinha visto aquelas coisas na minha vida.
Aí falaram pra nós parar o que tava fazendo, desliga o caminhão.
Daí nisso o cara já veio e já chamou a gente. E ficar tudo ali, tirar a camisa e ficar na esquina, parado. E ali começou o terror, daí...
Muitos tiros, muito barulho de bomba. Nós não tínhamos a noção inicial do que se tratava, mas havia um indicativo de uma possível tomada de cidade.
Existe gente alvejada.
A cidade estava sitiada.
Funcionários da prefeitura foram usados como escudo humano.
Nisso eu começo, eu tremia. Eu não sabia o que fazer.
Pelo amor de Deus.
Foi a mais terrível que eu passei na minha vida. Achava que ia morrer.
No final da noite de 30 de novembro de 2020, foi o maior assalto da história registrado. Eu estava trabalhando na delegacia de polícia. Era um dia normal. Às segundas-feiras, nós não temos um número maior de ocorrências. Então, era por volta de 11h50 e recebi mensagens no meu celular dando conta de que pessoas estavam ouvindo disparos. O plantonista, que exercia as atividades como agente de polícia, ele bateu à porta e disse: delegado, estão atirando no batalhão da Polícia Militar de Criciúma.
Eu sou responsável pelo maior portal de cobertura de segurança pública de comunicação digital de Criciúma. A gente acompanhava a transmissão da Polícia Militar através do rádio comunicador. Estava uma noite tranquila, calma.
Prioridade, central.
Até que começou uma gritaria. E aí o rádio estava baixo, eu imediatamente já subi o som do rádio. E aí a gente ouviu os policiais comunicando: central, prioridade. A informação inicial que a gente tinha é que se tratava de um assalto à Caixa Econômica Federal. E foi quando a gente decidiu entrar na live. Pessoal, chegando na região central de Criciúma, estamos chegando com a maior cautela no local, tentando nos aproximar, porque as informações também dão conta que toda a região central de Criciúma está cercada por esses criminosos.
Foi algo extremamente tenso, atuando aí com bombas no ambiente, com atiradores destacados, armas .50, que são armas de guerra de grosso calibre.
Muito bandido na rua, é muito disparo, e tudo de arma longa. A gente consegue escutar na... E a partir do ar São Luís, a gente começou a transmitir em tempo real. Mas a gente não tinha informação ainda sobre, de fato, o que era que estava acontecendo.
Nós nos deparamos com um problema onde nós não estávamos com os coletes, não tínhamos armas longas e não tínhamos equipes nas regiões preparadas para esse enfrentamento. Na oportunidade, então, eu fiz um contato com o delegado-geral da Polícia Civil de Santa Catarina para que se deslocassem para a cidade de Criciúma a fim de nos apoiar.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute financial news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Michael McKee at the Federal Reserve, and this is Bloomberg.
Technology is embedded in every aspect of our lives.
And laying the foundation for the future.
From finance to defense, AI to entertainment.
And from the road to the stars. Bloomberg brings you the latest stories of the people and companies pushing the tech sector to new frontiers.
And the politics that shape global tech markets.
I'm Caroline Hyde in New York.
And I'm Ed Ludlow in San Francisco.
Watch Bloomberg Tech every weekday.
Only on Bloomberg Television.
In case you missed it on Balance of Power.
Administration officials have maintained today that the objective was solely to focus on Iran's nuclear capabilities, that this objective was not regime change. But, sir, even if it wasn't the objective, could that still be the end result, and how?
I think regime change has to be the objective because the Ayatollahs are never going to give up their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They have to be forced out of power. That's the only shot we have at really lasting peace and security in the Middle East. And a strike like this, and potentially others, can disrupt the regime, can destabilize it. Look at the choice that the top military officials and key Ayatollahs now have to face after the U.S. attack. Now they have to make a choice. Do they want to take on a second military adversary in the form of the United States? They may well do it, but they would be making a big mistake from the point of view of regime survival.
Don't miss Balance of Power live every weekday.
Key investors, top executives, global innovators. Join me for in-depth conversations with the biggest newsmakers on the day's top stories. Insight with Haslinda Onen, only on Bloomberg.
Quando iniciou o ataque na cidade de Criciúma. Começou a circular em redes sociais as primeiras imagens. Eu percebi que a cidade estava sitiada, dezenas de criminosos, todos portando fuzis, coletes balísticos, alguns com capacetes, inclusive, veículos blindados. Eu já tive o histórico em outro crime, em outra ação, de ter sido baleado num confronto. Eram defronte uma agência bancária com a existência de reféns. Então, não é só a vida de cada um que temos preocupação, mas é a vida de outras pessoas inocentes.
Na época, tenho duas filhas pequenas ainda, uma com 11 e uma com 8 agora. Todo momento me olhando uma rota para mim fugir. Só que daí não dava, porque os caras falavam, Aí eu pensei, vou correr para onde, né?
Aí depois mandaram a gente pro outro lado, sentar na faixa de pedestre. Então, a gente sentado ali, um fumava, eu fumei uma carteira de cigarro em 15 minutos.
Aí ficou pensando, o que eles vão fazer? Será que eles vão levar nós? Será que eles vão matar alguma coisa? Não tem, eu vou morrer, né? Só pensava isso aí.
Passei a informar a equipe da nossa delegacia e, na sequência, deslocar até a cidade de Criciúma. Criciúma fica a mais ou menos 2 horas e 30 de viagem. Eles escolhem uma cidade afastada assim, que é para enfrentar apenas as forças policiais que estão naquela cidade.
Então vamos recapitular aí para quem está entrando agora. A quadrilha, a princípio, é muito grande, porque tem muito bandido na rua. Pela vestimenta, pelo armamento, era possível saber que tratava-se de pessoas especializadas naquele... Muito tiro, muito tiro, muito tiro, muito tiro. Então, afugentando a polícia... Eu recebo agora a mensagem do prefeito Clésio Salvaro, já mantém contato também com as forças de segurança.
A cidade, nesse momento, ela ainda continua sitiada. É um assalto de grandes proporções, bandidos muito bem preparados.
Estou assaltando um banco.
Continue em casa, não saia de casa.
Quando já iniciávamos o deslocamento até lá, recebemos a informação de que havia pelo menos 2 caminhões foram usados pelos criminosos, né, para evitar que passasse veículo, incendiados para dificultar a ação policial. As informações iniciais que nós recebemos davam a ideia que pudesse ser um ataque ao quartel da polícia. Instantes depois, havia informação de que eles estavam pela região central de Criciúma, no entorno de bancos, né, de agências bancárias. Nós iniciamos também contato com várias outras unidades da Polícia Civil. Então, houve policiais locais de Criciúma que já também estavam se movimentando, mas com extrema dificuldade, um policial baleado de maneira bastante grave.
Depois de 1 hora e meia, quase 2 horas, chegaram na delegacia 10 ou 12 policiais, dentre os quais trazendo o fuzil e também o meu colete balístico. Nós precisávamos exercer nossa função, mas eu poderia estar levando policiais à morte.
A polícia tá aqui na rua, cara.
Nós ouvíamos tiros, tiros passavam.
Já durante a viagem até Criciúma, né, já começávamos a trabalhar as possibilidades, as hipóteses de quem pudesse estar por trás dessa grande ação violenta que estava acontecendo.
Então, assim, a quadrilha está muito fortemente armada. Olha, eu tô aqui, ó, olha lá, munição traçante no ar, ó. Isso é munição de artefato de guerra. Eu vi que eu estava entrando em um limite que não teria mais volta. A live chegou em aproximadamente 112 mil pessoas online. Durante a transmissão, no meu número particular, eu recebi uma mensagem de um prefixo 82, que é do nordeste do país, e a mensagem era simples: você já foi longe demais, pode encerrar sua live. Tô suado, cara, de nervoso. Suado, nervoso. Não posso passar mais, porque caso eu passe, eu vou acabar sendo alvejado e morto.
Perto da 1 hora da manhã já, quando acontece a primeira explosão, nós identificamos. Então, o alvo é, de fato, a tesouraria do banco.
A gente começou a dar uns estouros de dinamite, e aquele chegou a tremer a terra.
Quando eles explodiram o cofre, daí deu um silêncio ensurdecedor, assim, que foi...
Aí eles passaram o rádio, ó, cofre, já abrimos o cofre, pode descer os carros. Aí começou a descer os carros. Tudo carro importado, tudo carro X5, tudo BMW, Mercedes, tudo carro bom. Eles pegaram nós e disseram, ó, agora vocês vão lá ajudar a pegar o dinheiro do cofre e botar nos carros.
Aí eles entregavam o dinheiro para nós, a gente pegava o dinheiro e levava até lá na estrada, botava tudo na calçada, tudo empilhado em cima da calçada. E eles ali pegavam e botavam dentro dos carros.
Levou uns 10, 15 minutos. Veio um cara com um malote, começou a jogar para cima, dinheiro, na frente do banco ali na mão. saíram com os carros, mas eles saíram numa tranquilidade, com 20 por hora.
Fui a primeira pessoa a chegar na frente do Banco do Brasil. Os criminosos deixaram, talvez, sei lá, 2, 3, 5 milhões de reais espalhados. Eu nunca mais vou me esquecer. Os moradores descendo dos apartamentos e pegando o dinheiro que ficou espalhado no chão. Então, não teve muito o que se fazer depois do roubo. Foi deixado mesmo para a polícia.
Quando nós chegamos ao local, por volta de 3 horas aproximadamente, esses indivíduos já tinham saído, tinham acabado de sair do local. Então, inicialmente nós acreditávamos que era um caixa normal. Só depois que nós ficamos sabendo que era a tesouraria do banco e que vários bancos da região deslocavam dinheiro e que esses valores ficavam ali.
O que aconteceu em Criciúma naquela noite foi muito planejado, foi muito preparado. Procuraram não cometer falhas, mas não existe crime perfeito. Qualquer ação, qualquer conduta vai deixar alguma marca. O desafio nosso é conseguir pegar essas marcas. Nós tínhamos a suspeita de que pudesse estar essa facção paulista envolvida diretamente ou por trás, inclusive, do roubo que aconteceu em Criciúma.
Didn't really think I had a problem.
I would isolate, self-medicate.
Like 48.5 million Americans, they didn't choose addiction. Go to shatterproof.org/findstreatment. Watch the film No More Secrets and find out how you can get help. That's shatterproof.org/findtreatment.
Asia is at the forefront of some of the world's biggest stories. I'm Sherrian in Tokyo.
And I'm Heidi Stroud-Watts here in Sydney, where the trading day begins. We're here in the center of all the action to get you set up with the numbers, news, and knowledge you need for the day ahead.
The demand is indeed recovering. We've been waiting for this moment.
The opportunity of a century.
Join us on Bloomberg The Asia Trade. Weekdays only on Bloomberg TV. Context changes everything.
David Weston. Join me for the next generation of Wall Street Week, telling stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. Each week, we'll go on the road for a look at what lies behind the headlines of today and what will likely be the headlines tomorrow.
Above all else, it's a mission.
It's done nothing but grow immensely.
To me, that's an extraordinary sign.
We can be the change that we want to see.
Watch the all-new Wall Street Week. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Our global headquarters in New York, I'm Danny Berger. Welcome to Bloomberg Brief. Let's set your agenda.
Bloomberg Brief delivers the market news, data, and analysis you need live every weekday only on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Newton Jesus Brandão de Oliveira, mais conhecido como China. Sou um ex-atleta profissional e hoje uma liderança da comunidade. Eu venho de uma comunidade muito carente. Nada, segue o jogo. Nada. Nós vivemos um mundo à parte. Um mundo à parte. E opressão. E acaba não chegando o recurso para as coisas mínimas da comunidade, que é um saneamento, que é uma moradia digna. Quando você entende que quem tem te proteger está te oprimindo. Aí quando você vai questionar... Então a gente é um abismo muito grande. A criança que enxerga isso acaba vendo um mundo muito distante deles poderem chegar. que o Estado deixou de atuar e essa que chegou através dessas organizações que estão dentro das comunidades.
The problem is enormous. Sprawling favelas are controlled by drug gangs and shootouts occur every day.
O crime organizado hoje te abraça. Ele abraça, ele precisa de soldado. Ele precisa de uma linha de frente. Quanto mais novo, mais fácil de você doutrinar. É uma população de adolescentes que vão crescendo sem oportunidade. Então, o caminho, o destino, o topo, é chegar num patamar de hierarquia no tráfico, que é onde você vai ter uma condição melhor. Então, se você não botar uma opção para que ele possa, de repente, sonhar com o sucesso mas lícito, ele vai sonhar com o sucesso ilícito.
Começa com informações de uma madrugada violenta no sul do país. O esquadrão antibombas da Polícia de Santa Catarina acaba de desativar mais 3 explosivos deixados por assaltantes que roubaram um banco.
Uma enorme quantidade de explosivos, passavam de 200 quilos. Na rua, tinham sistemas de acionamento remoto que poderiam, sim, ser acionados através de telefone celular. Os primeiros momentos, as primeiras horas em que um crime acontece são fundamentais. Todo o trabalho de investigação, aquela montagem do quebra-cabeças, nós vamos trabalhar com tudo o que for possível. Desde de providências técnicas, quebras de sigilo, imagens de câmeras de vídeo monitoramento, imagens de pessoas com seus telefones.
Havia sangue no local, havia impressões digitais, havia cabelo e outros elementos que poderiam ensejar uma identificação de DNA.
Pelo menos 30 assaltantes agiram naquela noite. Vestígios que eles foram deixando aos montes.
Então nós fizemos o isolamento da área onde havia acontecido o crime, naquele momento a tentar identificar para onde os criminosos haviam se deslocado.
Às 6h30, os carros foram encontrados abandonados neste milharal, em Nova Veneza, a 20 minutos de Criciúma.
Tínhamos, então, ali 10 automóveis, locais ricos, né, para o trabalho de investigação. Dos 10 veículos, só um não era blindado. Vários deles não estavam pintados de preto, né, algo para disfarçar rapidamente as cores.
No interior deste galpão, os policiais encontraram vestígios de tintas pretas que provavelmente foram usadas para pintar os carros.
Desse ponto aqui, a grande questão é, como é que eles saíram daqui? De barco, por esse riozinho? De helicóptero? De avião? Essa é a grande dúvida, essa é a grande questão que os policiais estão tentando levantar agora.
Buscando imagens de câmeras, foi identificado o sentido em que os criminosos deixaram os veículos e então seguiram a fuga utilizando um caminhão. A partir dali, então, se buscou identificar com moradores, com vizinhos, com pessoas das regiões próximas.
Os criminosos não eram discretos ao ponto de não chamar a atenção. Eles chamaram a atenção das pessoas que moravam e moram naquela cidade de Três Cachoeiras.
Eles alugaram um sítio. Vários deles ficaram aqui, estavam aqui há alguns dias já, se passando por turistas.
Eles ouviam música alta, faziam churrasco, eles usavam drogas como maconha. Então, situações como essas acabaram chamando a atenção e começaram a disparar informações para os órgãos policiais.
A quadrilha teria alugado o imóvel há quase 2 meses e pagou R$15 mil para que fosse desocupado o quanto antes.
Então, nós começamos a colher informações e conseguimos identificar que os criminosos fizeram daquele ambiente uma espécie de um escritório que teria sido uma casa de apoio para esses criminosos.
A polícia também apreendeu aí toucas ninja, um disparador de explosivos. A polícia encontrou roupas sujas de sangue e aí o Instituto Geral de Perícias já recolheu esses materiais todos para analisar.
Nós conseguimos identificar 9 imóveis que eles chegaram a utilizar, em estados diferentes, inclusive. Quando trabalhamos para identificar locais usados pelos criminosos, nós percebemos que não vieram todos os assaltantes juntos para agir naquela madrugada. Eles vieram em grupos pequenos, alguns sozinhos. Houve uma movimentação, uma logística deles, claro, para tirar também o dinheiro, para tirar as armas que eles estavam utilizando, os equipamentos que eles estavam utilizando. De um jeito ou de outro, já eram criminosos profissionais.
Por que nós acreditamos, desde o início da participação do primeiro comando da capital? Porque é a verdadeira organização criminosa que existe no Brasil, que tem essa potencialidade de fazer aquisição de valores e de equipamentos e de estruturas para realizar um evento como esse.
Why do the biggest names in business choose Bloomberg Television?
That's a great question.
It's a very good question.
Interesting question. Good question. Great question. I so appreciate that question. You certainly ask interesting questions.
Bloomberg Television. Top experts, great questions.
Foi a mais terrível que eu passei na minha vida.
Porque no final, tudo é dinheiro.
I think she's a scam up to now.
I am a winner.